Hello, welcome back to Live Reality Games. My name is Steven, and I'm excited to bring back some more Surviving Reelfoot coverage, Fowler's Point. And with me is the one, the only winner from this most recent season, Angela. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I mean, I'm doing well. How has wearing the victory crown been like? Has it really sunk in that you won the season?
No. It is a little bit more now. It's a pretty open book as far as those of us that have played. We've all gone on a lot of group chats because
Hmm.
coming out of a game that lasts that long, there's a lot of like self-reflection,
Hmm.
downtime. You're emotionally, physically, psychologically completely drained, and
Hmm.
so it did take me a really long time. I was naive enough to think that because I won, I wouldn't have that as much. Um, and honestly, it's almost been worse. So, um,
Well,
but I'm feeling better now.
Well, that's what I find fascinating is that, for 16 other people, right, who lost your season, they're going to be full of coulda, shoulda, wouldas, right? And you
Right.
think like as the winner, you'd be immune from that, but from talking to other people, you probably still have all these things I could have done instead.
Uh, I literally have questioned every single move that I made that entire game at least 3 times. Um, if I could have done this, should I have done this? Should I
Hmm.
have gone to the end with this person? And then not only am I doing that, but I'm also getting asked a lot of questions. Like,
Hmm.
why did this happen? Why did you choose this?
Hmm.
Did you believe you were going to bring me when you said this? So I get other people's questions also. But it's been nice. It's been nice to like explain where I was coming from along the way too. So,
Hmm.
you know, it is what it is.
Well, definitely bring up any major points where you feel like people are saying, like, what was going through your head, what was going on there. I know, like, there are several. I think there's a couple key moments to your game where you have a lot of power and decision making that I really would love to dig into, and we'll do that when we get there.
Perfect.
So first, let's step back to before your victory, before the season even starts. You had the opportunity last year to play Can You Survive, which was a 4-day game, right?
Yeah.
4-day, much more fast paced and brutal. And you duck and dodge, survived a hard pre merge, and you get cut right before final tribal council.
That's
You're the
correct.
last jury member
Yeah.
before the final three. Walk me through your thoughts, like a year, like before you go in the real fit, thinking about the game, what was on your mind? What did you want to do differently?
Um, I knew a lot of mistakes when I came out of Can You Survive? I didn't know LRG
Hmm.
games existed. I didn't know online games existed until I was in the middle of that game. So I was like a complete naive human
Hmm.
in that world, which really put me back a lot. I think that
Hmm.
if I had been more aware, I probably would have done better. Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, I got booted right before final tribal, so I did well, but mentally, I think I would have been a little bit more prepared. So this time, I knew what I was getting in for. I knew
Hmm.
the mistakes I made the first time. One of them was I played very emotionally in Can You Survive? Uh,
Hmm.
it worked well for me, but it made it so no one was bringing me to the end.
Hmm.
Like the boys came up to me and they said, "There's zero way we are bringing you to the end because people feel attached to you. They feel emotionally connected to you. You're going to win. We're not bringing you."
Hmm.
Um, so I knew that I had to downplay the emotional part of me, at least openly in front of other people. That being said, I knew that I really wanted to keep the emotional connections one on one with people and just maybe hide it a little bit better from the
Hmm.
group. So people didn't know how close I was to certain people. That was definitely a game plan. The other thing that I said going in is I wanted to align with a boy, which I didn't do at all. Um,
Well,
I
hey, you sat in with Storm and Sebastian.
I did, but that was Storm and I didn't get close until like the very end. So I went in with kind of like a stricter game plan, and then I just adapted because of how the tribes ended up shaking out really initially. So
Hmm. Well, how did you discover Can You Survive last year? Then how did you end up discovering Real Foot after that?
it's really funny, actually. Doing Can You Survive was a complete fluke. Um, Somebody tagged me in a Facebook post because they were looking for female applicants. And I'm kind of crazy. So my friend was like, "This looks like something you would do." They had no idea that I was a fan of the show Survivor, which I am obsessed with.
Hmm.
So it got me right out of the gate. I was like, I've got to do it. This is going to be amazing. If nothing else, for the experience. I didn't think I had
Mhm.
a shot to really make it very far, but I was really excited. And then after I got out, I was addicted for months of watching online games and researching and what are orgs and are
Mhm.
they fun? So I like immersed myself. I think I watched 3 seasons of Survival Challenge. I started watching Reelfoot. I started trying to just get my hands on just games, more just to watch for fun.
Mhm.
Um, and a friend of mine that I actually played Can You Survive with shot me the application for Reelfoot. And I was
Mhm.
like, there's not a chance. I'm gonna do it anyway. But so it was kind of just weird luck because I probably would not have seen that if he didn't message me. So
So one of the differences between Can You Survive and Reelfoot is definitely the time span, right? Can You Survive was 4 days, a very quick and brutal 4 days when you have a large cast. Reelfoot was 8 days long, with a bit of a smaller cast. How did you doing to prepare for the elements, or just the amount of time you'd be outside in that game?
I didn't really, only because the one thing that surprised me the most in doing Can You Survive is how quickly you adapt to
Hmm.
those elements. I don't feel most people have to do anything specific, really to prepare unless I don't know. I just felt within about 20 minutes of laying on a ground, you're like, "Oh, this is my reality now. I'm laying on the ground and I'm just gonna make do." You don't care about the bugs, you don't care about the elements, you don't care about the snakes, you just do it.
Hmm.
And it doesn't take very long. So I knew that that part wasn't going to bother me as much. I will say, and I'm probably gonna get slack for this, um, the food element of Can You Survive was astronomically worse than it was for Reelfoot because my tribe lost every single challenge, so we just didn't have food. We didn't have rice, we didn't have a fire, we didn't have I think I had two orange slices in 2.5 days and didn't eat anything else. So, um,
You
so
should apply for
Reelfoot
Survival Challenge. You'd be right at home there.
oh my god. So I was prepared for that for the most part.
So Reelfoot lets you pick a lecture item. What'd you end up deciding on?
Oh my god, this is so embarrassing. This is this is not my brightest moment. So, so we get to send in 3 items. They get to pick the one that we can bring.
Hmm.
I put a razor, which I was like, "That's good, right? A razor for hair stuff, underarms." I had laser treatment 2 weeks before I went on Reelfoot for my underarms. A completely pointless luxury gift. It got broken within, like, the first 8 hours of the game or something anyway, but, I felt like such an idiot.
Yeah, I'm blanking. I can't remember what Storm said, but he was like, I don't think he found it useful. Keenan brought up football. He was like,
Nobody with
the
it. Yeah,
razor,
yeah. Storm brought, like, this little, like, dollar store, deodorant.
deodorant. There we go. And he's just like, everyone smelled.
No,
Wasn't useful.
no,
So getting to the game, unlike past seasons where there's like a kind of a welcome, get to know each other lunch,
none of
you
that.
get thrown straight in there, right? Looking at the other players from the get-go, was there anyone you knew or recognized?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was. Megs.
Hmm.
So, Storm actually he blew it up a little bit. So Megs and I've only played 2 online games before. Megs
Hmm.
and I have played twice with each other. Um, the first time we played, we were actually part of, like, the best alliance of the entire season. There was 4 of us. We were super, super close.
Hmm.
Um, and as the game went on, it was towards the end of the game, me and an ally of mine kind of turned on the other 2 people.
Hmm.
Um, it it didn't go over well, because it was, like, the end of the alliance, and Megs very much thought it was too early. It probably was.
Hmm.
Um, but it was a decision that I made, and so we played again the very next season, and I could tell right out of the gate she didn't really wanna work with me. She ended up giving somebody an idol to get me out of that game. So, so playing Reelfoot, I was like, "Oh, no, this is probably not good."
Hmm.
But it was hard too because I didn't really know where we stood. We've met outside of, the game and whatnot. We've gotten along great, but I still didn't. No. I think this was her first live game. I don't think she's played before.
Hmm.
And I think obviously both of us were just like, this is such a big opportunity. It meant a lot for both of us.
Hmm.
And then I got put on her team. So I was like, God, crap. I don't know what this means. So yes, I recognized her immediately, obviously. And then no, I didn't recognize anybody else.
So, talk to me about the tribe divisions, right? Who ends up choosing you, and who did you choose, and why?
Um, First of all, schoolyard pick, rude, rude, rude. I was literally like, great. I'm the old one. I'm chubby. Like, no, who's gonna pick me? It was like my worst nightmare come true. Storm ended up picking me, and I ended up picking Keenan. So,
So, why Keenan?
he was feisty. He had a lot of energy. I was there for it. I loved it. He's quite a personality. You could tell that right out of the gate, and he was very athletic looking. So that's why I picked him.
So, you have your new tribe, the Kawanu tribe, and you're immediately told, vote a player. Don't
Yeah,
know why, don't know for, but write someone's name down.
yeah.
And so, what was going through your head with that?
Um, it was. Is there going to be a challenge? Are they going to have to go to exile? Are they going to have to? They're going to have to do something to represent the tribe in some way. I don't know if
Hmm.
it's good or bad. So I actually voted for Storm. He said that he was willing to be nominated. He's a big guy. He's strong. So I picked him, but Casey won the most votes. So
Yeah, so this is where you learn Casey has now received immunity at the
yeah,
first tribal council, which will end up being a major factor in what's to come. And
yeah,
you learn that a twist from season 3 is coming back. This medallion that if a player wears it, they receive a penalty vote at their next tribal council. And Casey proceeds to gift it to Keenan and then kind of bring the tribe together and say, hey, I don't want this person to be voted out. Talk to me about Casey and this medallion and how that went down for you.
So I actually watched parts of that season. So
Hmm.
when I saw that medallion, I was just devastated. Like, I don't like that twist. I
Hmm.
hated it. Um,
Why?
because it adds a factor into the game that I already knew I had a connection to Megs. I don't
Hmm.
know what that means. And I didn't know how I was going to fit into the tribe. And I feel like if you're marked by somebody leaving, that puts you at such a disadvantage because it was a target in the third season, I think, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, it came into play a decent amount, I feel. So I was instantly terrified.
Hmm.
I do feel Casey did a very good job of explaining where he was coming from.
Hmm.
With Casey talking, you realize he's very good at speaking. He is super uber politically correct. He constructs his words, how he talks to people. It was literally centered around being respectful, um, taking the target out of the game, and more protecting somebody that gets it. That being said, those were very strong words out of the gate in a game where he didn't know what anybody else was thinking. He was trying
Hmm.
to explain his actions. We didn't have to decide that. So he was trying to explain himself. Um, but the minute that people start talking or making moves, you're instantly trying to decide, what does this mean? Is it good? Is it bad? Do I want to work with him? Do I not want to? So it was a lot of activity out of the gate.
So, talk to me about this new Kawano camp, and actually just kind of run through these new tribe members and your thoughts on them and first impressions.
Um, so I think we went like immediately to that reward challenge, right?
Yeah, so you have the memory match challenge where you're matching boxes, and if you match the boxes, you get some small reward item.
So I guess so right after we picked teams and Casey explained himself, they gave us like 10 minutes to go inside, change, put your game stuff on, finalize your bag, all that stuff. I was in my room alone, finishing my bag, getting ready to go outside. And Lauren comes in and she's like, I got you. And I was like, cool. She's like, and we were kind of beside each other, I think, in the lineup anyway, when we did the school year pick. And she was like, I
Mm.
feel you. I like your energy, blah, blah, blah. I was like, cool. So I did feel decent when we went outside, and then we all had like a quick sharing thing. Storm talked about how he's hard of hearing on one side, da da
Mhm.
da. We kind of explained what we did for a living.
Mhm.
Casey was like wearing like a heart monitor. He's like, I don't want anybody to freak out about it. It's fine. And I'm a nurse, so I was like, great. Um, so we had a little bit of a chance to talk and chat. I think my impression of Keenan was pretty spot on. He
Mhm.
is very social, very, very honest in a group, had all kinds of energy. Um, I already knew Meg's.
Mhm.
Storm was definitely I felt like Storm was holding back a little bit,
Mhm.
but he was very honest, like, about himself. He worked for Habitat for Humanity and kind of talked about that, so that was interesting. Casey, again, when he spoke, was very well spoken. Um, Seemed to put a lot on like the social aspects kind of the game and how
Mhm.
um, that was really important to him. Um, and then Lauren, I just found Lauren instantly hilarious. I thought she was funny. She was very laid back to me. Dina
Mhm.
is like a larger than life personality. She's not bashful. I loved it. And Ryan definitely like came out and he was like, I'm an Eagle Scout. And I was like, thank God. That
Someone knows what they're
was like
doing.
the best news I had ever heard.
Mhm.
Um, so, and then James was, I'm not gonna lie, I instantly fell in love with James. I was like, I think he's gonna be the person that I want to talk to immediately.
Mhm.
Um, he also was very like forthcoming when he presented himself about like what he did for work, where he lived. I loved how he just spoke very genuinely. Um, and then I think that's everybody. Yeah, that's everybody. And then when we went to the reward challenge, which was a memory challenge, I was like, thank God. Like this is something that I actually feel decent at. Um, I don't remember how many matches I got. I think I got like 3, but I helped other people too, and I felt like I was contributing because my
Mhm.
biggest fear was, please don't make it crazy physical and point out the fact that I'm not gonna be very strong in challenges. So, I was really pumped that that was even though it was for a reward,
Mhm.
it definitely highlighted something that I felt good about.
So one thing I kind of want to talk about is that your past experience in Can You Survive, were you forthcoming with that? Did people, you mentioned you knew Meg, so were you worried that she was going to talk about it?
I was very. So, I was not forthcoming about
Mhm.
any of my previous experiences at all. There had been a couple of conversations. One was in a group when we first got together. Some people
Mhm.
were honest. I think Keenan initially
Yeah.
was like, "I played BC."
Mhm.
Uh, um, and was super honest about it. There were some other conversations, and people recognized other people too, I think.
Mhm.
I just didn't really say anything on
Mhm.
purpose, but I didn't want it to be secretive in
Mhm.
case other people did know. So, I think it was, like, day 2 probably, I kinda just slipped into conversation, like,
Mhm.
"Oh, yeah, when I did this game, this happened."
Mhm.
And nobody really said anything until probably the 2nd or 3rd time I mentioned something, they're like, "Oh, what did you play?" But I think there were enough people there that had other experience, I don't think it really came into play that
Gotcha.
much.
So at the end of the first day, who were you feeling most comfortable with?
The group.
Everyone as a whole?
No. Um, so literally that first day, me, Lauren, Storm, Ryan, and Dina were very tight.
Mhm.
Um, I think but that being said, Lauren and Dina were close. Dina and Ryan were close. Lauren and Storm were close. I was probably the closest to Lauren at that point,
Mhm.
but I was very well aware I was fifth wheel. Very well aware.
Mhm.
Um, but I also thought that was a good thing. Um, I knew there were gonna be mix up and twists and whatnot, but I figured even if there wasn't for a while, being a fifth wheel isn't really the worst thing in the world. I had connected with James pretty much
Mhm.
day one. We had a lot of side conversations, and James, me, and Lauren had a lot of side conversations. But Megs and Casey, I don't think talked to me at all that first day,
Mhm.
and everybody else really did. So it was a little bit of a division, kind of right out of the gate, I think. And then that first night, there was that group of us slept out by the campfire, um, which ended up being called the campfire group. And Casey and Meg slept in the shelter, which was maybe like 10 feet away.
Mhm.
When we woke up in the morning, it was like, who you sleep beside is extremely telling in this game because we all felt really good with each other.
So there's a question from the no longer reigning champ of Surviving Reelfoot.
Ah,
Justin asks,
definitely.
Did you identify any players on your tribe as like a big threat to you early on in the game?"
I knew instantly that Ryan was going to be a huge social threat. Um, I couldn't really tell if he was going to be a game threat, if he was
Mhm.
going to make game moves, but Ryan was everyone's best friend straight away. He's like a good old country boy who works his ass off. He's funny. He's so genuine. He has like a heart of gold, and it radiated off of him. Like he
Mhm.
couldn't hide it. You can't fake that. So Ryan was just, I was like, oh God, this guy's gonna melt everyone's heart. Um, and other than that, I knew that Lauren came to play. Lauren came out of the gate in my room telling me that she had my back. She did the same thing to Storm, actually. I think she hit Storm up first and then came to
Mhm.
me. And she was playing. She started talking game literally, I think, an hour into it. Um, and then everybody else, I think I was kind of waiting for.
Mhm. So how early was Casey and Meg's name being thrown out? Was that end of day one, or is that really something that kind of solidified
Um,
day two?
no, I think it was kind of day two.
Mhm.
We might have mentioned the fact that I think we were checking in with each other.
Mhm.
Um, like, "Hey, did you talk to them?" "Nope." "Did you talk to them?" "Nope." And there had been a couple of times, maybe at the end of day 1, beginning of day 2, where you go look for firewood with people and you come back with 1 twig, but I would go with, like, Casey or Megs, and there was no game talk. It was
Mhm.
like, "Hey, how are you feeling?" They were like, "Good."
Well,
Anything else? So it was slow, but it was probably day 2 where we were like, "Okay, they're just not talking to anybody."
Mhm. Well, it feels like one of the challenges of Survivor is always like kind of understanding what the pace of your tribe is, right? Is your tribe
Exactly,
going really fast? Is your tribe kind of slowing down? Because if you go too fast when it's slow, you're a target.
correct.
And if you go too slow when they're going fast, everyone's like, well, they're not talking to me.
Yeah, I've made that mistake before. I've gone way too hard in an online game, and they're like, "Yeah, you're out of here." Um, and this tribe did move fast, and
Mhm.
I do feel the 5 of us clicked very quickly. We
Mhm.
were sitting down, and it was like an eye conversation that happened, and we just nodded our heads, like, "This makes sense." And of course, we all had, like, our side, um our side emotional attachments and those conversations that we had. I was very close with James, even though he wasn't part of that group.
Mhm.
I think Storm and Keenan kind of had a good relationship, and Ryan and Keenan. But that core 5 really solidified like day 1.
So day two, you have a series of reward challenges. So let's talk about the SOS challenge
All
first.
those. It's a disaster. Um, the SOS challenge, honestly, my least favorite challenge. I know it was for reward and it didn't matter, but that challenge just I hated it.
You all made a very pretty duck.
God, we tried so hard. I'm gonna say this. I don't have good ideas often, but I brought up using toilet paper and everybody was like, "No, we don't wanna waste the toilet paper." I was like, "We have 75 rolls." It's probably because I thought like the white would
Mhm.
be like bright. But I also feel like our duck looked awesome, but I don't know. I didn't see what the other one actually ever looked like. I never got to see it. But it was a lot of ideas.
Mhm.
Like, everybody had a different idea, and I was just like, "I'll do whatever anybody else wants." I'm not horribly creative and things like that, so
Mhm.
I think Megs took a huge lead on that. I think KC did too. I think they, like, pretty much came up with a lot of that. And it was good. I think we did a great job. We just weren't good enough, I guess.
Your next reward challenge is kind of the slip and slide challenge, right?
Yeah.
Which your tribe also loses.
Yeah. Yeah. We're on a roll. Yeah, that was probably one of the funnest challenges, in all honesty. I was like, I'm gonna die. I don't have a lot of confidence in being slippery and then going down a slide and
Mhm.
also like tossing a ring. But I think it wasn't really close. I lost my heat. I only went once. It was against Megan. Um, and I think it was the damn ring. Like I think we would have stood a chance if it wasn't for that. And honestly, I think after this, we were slowly starting to like get a little bit more bummed out. We felt good after the very first reward, the memory challenge, because we did
Mhm.
really well in that. And then to lose like 2 in a row. And of course, my brain is going back to Can You Survive when we lost like 87 challenges in a row. And I was like, oh no, it's me.
Well, because then you have the third challenge, the kind of the floor is lava challenge. We had to like go across the balance
That
beams
one
and
too.
memorize colors and like reorganize them, and that does not go well either for your tribe.
No, it didn't. Um, and I actually have done in Can You Survive? We did a very, very similar
Hmm.
um, competition. It was a little bit different, but I think there were 10, maybe like 10 colors across the top.
Hmm.
And my whole tribe went across. I think we got there at like about the same time. And they were like, "I'll remember one whole row." And I was like, "You're not going to." I've done a similar challenge. No one can remember 10 colors in a row. It's
Hmm.
not going to work. So we need to I think there were like 6 down, 10 across. And I was like, "We're going to have to go twice. So why doesn't everybody just pick like 6 colors instead
Hmm.
of rows, we'll go columns and we'll just come back." We
Hmm.
we were pretty fast. We can do it. Um and we'll just go in the order of the people that were coming across these planks. Well, then everybody forgot the order that they were coming across on on the beams, and some people studied the wrong column, and it was so then we lost that one too. I think I messed up my colors because they were supposed to be purple, but I thought they were black because I couldn't see. I don't know.
So,
Disaster.
as you're playing these reward challenges, is there anyone in other tribes you're kind of like clocking like that person's gonna be a problem later on?
Um, I don't think so,
Hmm.
really. I don't think so. Not at that point.
Hmm.
How
Anyone
about
you want to work with, maybe
uh, from the other tribe or my tribe?
other tribe?
Um, I really wanted to work with Megan. I kinda saw
Okay.
Megan as, like a beast.
Hmm.
She reminded me a little bit of myself personality-wise.
Hmm.
Um, she seemed very serious at the competitions. She was not playing no games. Um, and that's kinda how I am, so I really, really respect that. She seemed super focused. She was taking it seriously, and I just saw her as, like, a really strong female, so
Hmm.
I was definitely really hoping that we would connect at some point. Carly also, we rode into the game together, which you're not really like allowed to talk in any way, but I kept trying to like look at her, like we're blondes, like maybe we can connect later in the game or something. I don't know. Um, so I had my eye a little bit on some of the ladies over there.
Hmm. Now, you've lost 3 reward challenges, but you still have the actual mini challenge to kind of conclude this day.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where you have to go through the obstacle course, and you are the puzzle person, the most pivotal person on the tribe. Talk to me about your experience in this challenge, because it's a roller coaster.
Um, yeah, it was. So I I like certain puzzles. Um, I really like pattern puzzles. Um, I had good experience with them in CYS. I was in charge of this pattern tile puzzle and I like it a lot. I felt like I was good at it. And the minute that I volunteered, I was like, why would you volunteer to do the puzzle? Why would you do that? That was stupid. Um, and the obstacle course race was so much fun. Like that
Hmm.
was I think that was everybody's favorite challenge to date at that time. And then we get to the puzzle and I get every single wrong. I'm already behind slightly, but I get every single rung and the last one doesn't fit. The last one. And I was like, oh God, is this one of those ones where one can fit in a couple, but only one fits down here? And so I started flipping them all over and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And I literally lost it for about 30 seconds. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And I was so mad. And all I could hear was my beautiful tribe being like, you're doing so good. You're so close. And I just felt like the weight of the world. And I was so frustrated. And then like that clarity moment happens where you're like, hey, stupid, flip the one board in your hand and put it down. And so that happened. So we go running back.
Mm-hmm.
They all go running back. This is probably the single best moment ever in the game. And we get all the puzzle pieces out and like a couple fall into place. And I lean over to say, maybe like 2 or 3 people should work on this and everybody else kind of back off. And as I lean over, there's like this beaming light where I feel the hexagon should go. I don't know why, but I pick up the hexagon, put it down, and like people just start slamming pieces down and it's over. I was like, what the hell just happened?
I mean, you all finished that challenge like the puzzle in like 30, 45 seconds. It was ridiculous because I'm just like,
ridiculous. I literally, I can't remember who put the first couple. I put the hexagon on and blinked and it was over. And I was like, that was, and we celebrated so hard. That was a really, really good moment. We were pretty relieved at that.
So kind of in the day two, kind of walk me through how your position in the tribe, like what alliances do you have? Like, where do you see yourself in the major alliances?
I felt very, very solid with that group of 5.
Mm-hmm.
So me, Lauren, Dina, as women, had side conversations. It was brought up really early in the game that only one female had ever won Reelfoot before.
Mm-hmm.
And how important that was for us to get as far as we possibly could, especially together if possible. Which was kind of the theme throughout a lot of my gameplay actually throughout the season. And then me and Lauren and James had a pretty good connection. We 3 said that we wanted to work together.
Mm-hmm.
I had taken Keenan one-on-one. We had some very good conversations. Megs and Casey still were not talking to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they were, I wasn't aware of it because everybody else in the 5-person group was like, no, they're not really saying anything like I've even tried. But that being said, James did come to me, I'm pretty sure on day 2 and say, Casey really likes me. He talked to me the first day we were here and says that he really wants to work with me and you and Keenan and Megs. And I was like, that's great. I haven't heard from either one of them yet. And James very clearly knew that there was a group of 5 of us that were also pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I feel like if you and I go with Dina, Lauren, Storm, and Ryan, we're 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
That's who we are in that group.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good play for us? Like, should we consider going with Casey and Megs and Keenan?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I am all about listening to this, but Casey and Megs have not approached me about it. So
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't make me feel good. I understand
Mm-hmm.
why you feel good about it because Casey talked to you initially, but they haven't really brought it up to me. And that being said, I also had some side conversations with Keenan, who was like, hell no, I'm not working with them. So they were kind of banking on Keenan, and Keenan really didn't have any interest.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was like the beginning of day 3 where I went to James and said, I get it, but the numbers are over here.
Mm-hmm.
If Keenan is not going to work with Casey and Megs, there's no point in you working with them either because the numbers aren't over there.
Mm-hmm.
But Casey did end up talking to me. I think it was like early the next morning, or maybe it was even the end of day 2. And he was like, I feel really good about it. Keenan is definitely in. And I was like, are you sure Keenan's in? And he was like, if he's not in, he is the best actor that I have ever seen. And I was like, and then instantly I'm like logging that away. Like, is Keenan really a good actor? I didn't see that coming, but Casey was very convinced that Keenan was going to work with him. I know, Casey. And it sucks too, because in all honesty, if Keenan was willing to work with them, I might have. I might have failed, in all
So
honesty.
let's talk about it, because that's interesting that Keenan was the real pivot between you potentially flipping. And so had you flipped, would you, who of that remaining 4 campfire alliance would you have wanted to target?
I would have picked one of the boys.
Not Lauren.
But Ryan was, oh, I don't know if I would have picked one of the boys. I want to say that because the girls, I really wanted to work with the girls as long as possible. But that being said, Ryan was a monster at camp. He really was. Like, he single-handedly built our shelter. He was super helpful in challenges. And Storm was really the one guy that we felt physically might be able to compete with Sharif, who is like this enormous man. So I don't think it would have been smart to get rid of one of them. And I do know that, like, later on with that first vote out, it was kind of Lauren's name that was being tossed around. So I almost think that I wouldn't have pushed, really, if I had decided to go in that direction. And Keenan was definitely, I would have had more thoughts in my head about that decision if Keenan was more on the fence. But when I talked to him just privately, one-on-one with him, he was like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
So
and
like,
even from yesterday, Keenan seemed pretty adamant about that feeling still.
Yeah. And it was a bummer too, because I liked Casey a lot as a person, very much so. So I would have liked to have worked with him and Megs.
And so you kind of wrap up day 2. Did you have any? Was there any speculation of who's going out first from the Unaga tribe?
Yeah, we talked about it. Storm did say, he was like, I think it's Drew. And we're like, why do you think it's Drew? And he was like, because they were getting really mad at him on the balance beam. I was like, I was too focused on where my damn feet were on the balance beam. Like, I wasn't looking at anything else. Storm was very perceptive, like the whole game. He kept tabs on what was going on, looks between people. Like, he's a super smart gamer. I actually thought it might be Barbara. Probably it was my own fear. Like, they're gonna pick the mom of that tribe, and then I'm next. But we did talk about it a lot at night.
Well, so day 3 comes, and you go to your next challenge. What was immunity will become a reward challenge. This is the balls in the haystack challenge, where you have to dive through the hay, get the balls, and once you have the balls, you do go through like a vertical table maze.
Yeah. I sat out of this one. Thank God, because the amount of running that they had to do to find this ball, and one of them didn't even like exist or was covered up or whatever. Thank God. I also didn't know how I'd do with like the maze. So I sat out of that one. It was a mix of emotions. We were super elated that we won, and then they
It
were
was a
like,
nail
"Oh,
biter.
just kidding. It's for reward." And we did milk it. They gave us like, it was like a tombstone pizza, so it's not huge, and it's cut into like 8 pieces. And then we were like, "We get some popsicles." And then
there's some bartering.
can we get a ride back to camp? Like, what else can we get? But there was some anger there when they first came out, and it was like a lot of, I don't know if it's just because I'm old or whatever, but I was like, guys, they're doing the best they can do. Like, they're trying to make it fair. It's fine. So we got some food into us. We were a little bit happier.
So then you have your true immunity challenge. This is the idle hands challenge, where you have the little pedestal and you're trying to knock off the other player. What was that like for you?
I had done this same challenge in Can You Survive? And I was atrocious at it. I think
this year?
Huh?
Did you improve this year?
Yeah, I did. I won.
Nice.
But when we did it in Can You Survive, it was, I can't remember how many people, like 8 people all at once.
Oh.
And you're trying not to go out of bounds and hit other people's off. It was for like individual immunity. But watching that, I did realize that, and I told my team, I was like, listen, if you're close and they're coming at you, throw it. Like, throw the egg in the air as high as you possibly can and then lunge and try to knock theirs down, because it takes longer for that to come down to the ground than if you knock somebody's thing off. And it worked for like 1 or 2 people, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the other tribe was also trying to do it. So it wasn't like some big secret. I only had to go once, and I went up against Carly, and I wanted a physical challenge so badly this season. Like a one-on-one, like I want to like push somebody off a pedestal or something, because I'm kind of an aggressive person by nature. And I think this was the closest thing I got, was this idle smack or whatever. But yeah, it was fun. I like that challenge a lot. And it was raining. It was like downpouring rain. So it added dramatic effect.
So some other notable things have happened at this point, right? Ryan has found the Kawanu tribe idol, and you're not there for the find, but you're immediately told about it.
Yeah, I was.
Talk to me about that.
Lauren and I weren't there. I think you probably asked Storm and Dina, like, should we tell Lauren and Angela? And at that point, they did. He found it in front of everybody. We were all idol hunting. I literally actually think the minute that he was finding it, I was on a one-on-one chat with Keenan, trying to figure out where he stood with Casey and Megs. I remember exactly where the idol was when he found it, in correlation. So he came up to me pretty immediately, told me about it. He also had started making his fake idol too, and he told me about that. And then what happened? He did tell me that it would be used if any of us got like swapped and we were outnumbered horribly. He would definitely use like his fake idol that he was making to save one of us, and blah blah blah. And so that instantly makes me feel very good about the group that I'm deciding to work with. It definitely nailed the coffin for me working with Casey and Megs, because Ryan trusted me and the group, but me also, enough to tell me about a real idol, a fake idol, pretty quickly after he found it. So it really did solidify that group for me for the next like day or two.
And so you're not worried at all. Like, you don't have the philosophy of like, I need to get idols of the game, I should target Ryan because he has one. You didn't feel any of that?
No, I didn't.
So let's see. So from there, you go to your last mini challenge. Julia's been voted out for the Noga tribe, and this is another ball maze style navigation where you have to go through a series of obstacles. You have these very heavy table mazes at the very end, and this does not go as well for your tribe.
Doesn't. It doesn't, and it was so frustrating to watch. I can't imagine being on that puzzle board. I can't. I would have rather died than to have been there. And you could just hear the frustration. You could hear it. And it was Dina. Dina was like, pick it up and bounce it. And all of a sudden, it just starts going in the air. And it worked like with the very first one. Honestly, I think the biggest issue that we had is it came so close to the middle where the hole was multiple times. Like, it'd bounce it, it would get right there. Like, you guys just have to move it one time and it could go in. But I think they were so frustrated and exhausted, and they just kept bouncing it and bouncing it and bouncing it. And so we definitely lost that one.
So going, I don't think there's much to discuss about this scramble period, because at this point, the strategy against Megs and Casey is pretty much set, right? Because at this point, they probably, like, Casey and Megs have probably talked to you somewhat this day 3 about the strategy, but you're kind of with this other alliance.
I think it was the beginning. It might have been the end of day 2 when Megs finally talked to me. And maybe Casey also. But after we lose, I think for me personally, I was really conflicted. I would really like to say that I wasn't, but it was very hard for me, because when me and Megs didn't instantly like run off and start strategizing, I kind of wrapped my head around the fact that I was going to play my game like Megs was anybody else. And I wasn't going to go after her, but I also wasn't going to put myself at risk to try to save her. And that's just, I had just kind of decided on that because I didn't know. I didn't know where we stood or how she really did feel about me. I
Hmm.
just didn't feel confident.
Hmm.
And after we lost that challenge, I was like, I know what's going to happen. Like, I know
Hmm.
it because Casey was immune, which we kind of kept forgetting about because it's day 3 now. So we were like really, and Storm kept going like, guys, we can't vote Casey out. So we're like, okay. Um, and it was really hard. But day 3, after we lost that challenge, was the first time Megs came up to me and said, so are we doing Lauren or Ryan? It was the first time that they had mentioned other names. And
Hmm.
at that point, it's day 3, and we started talking day 1
Hmm.
um, about that kind of conversation. And it was so hard because I remember that conversation with Megs before that vote. And I was like, ask me if you're safe. Like, ask me that question. Um, because I could tell she had no idea.
Hmm.
I don't think Casey or Megs literally had a clue. I think they were nervous and they knew that the votes were going to be tight, but I could tell talking to Meg, she had absolutely no idea it was going to be her.
Hmm.
And that was one of the lowest parts for me. I cried by myself after.
Hmm.
Um, I went immediately to I think Lauren, and I was like, Lauren, she has no idea. Like that is that's a terrible feeling with someone that you know, and I've worked with her and I like her and we did well. And I was just like, well, I'm getting the duck. I know it. um, but she never did. She never said, hey, am I safe? Have you heard my name? Those things that we kind of ask um,
Hmm.
when we're worried. And I'm pretty sure I just lied to Casey and said that I would vote. I don't know if it was Lauren or somebody too. So
Talk to me about the merits of also blindsiding Casey, because this ends up being a very important part of the season. Is Casey will flip as a result of this?
yeah. What we had kind of talked about, because we knew that that was going to happen, was he can be next. Everybody felt very good about Keenan, and everybody felt really good about James. We
Hmm.
obviously felt good about the 5 of us. And it was like, that's one person. That's
Hmm.
one person that's not going to feel good after this vote versus if we do Keenan, then Casey and Megs
Yeah.
are still there, and those are 2 people that we know aren't as tight with us. So, what is really the point of doing that? Where if we do Megs, Casey is only one person, and we felt good about the other people.
Hmm.
So it was definitely talked about. It didn't make it any easier though.
Hmm.
It was pretty rough.
So tribal council happens.
Yep.
Megs is voted out pretty unanimously in 7-2-1, and
Yeah.
you receive the duck. It's no longer around Keenan's neck 24/7. It's now around your neck.
Yep. Yep.
But
Saw that coming.
this this ends up being a weird blessing in
It is
disguise.
the best blessing, honestly. That honestly probably saved my game, if I'm
Hmm.
honest. If somebody else had gotten that and gone to the summit, I think I would have had a much different road than I did.
Hmm.
Um, that was very important. Being able to go to the summit was very important for me.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. So you and Josh, because you have the necklaces, you cannot switch tribes. You will stay on the Quanu and Noga tribe.
Thank
However, you two get to essentially build your own tribe, and in your favor, not only because the Yellow tribe has a number advantage, 8-6,
you. Yeah,
and I remember watching back. It kind of like you two kind of just eschewed the rules and just kind of like
we did.
traded people as you went. Talk to me about this experience.
We did. So, first of all, they don't tell you anything. Like our tribe handlers that are with us and taping confessionals and telling us when to go for challenges, they don't give you any information. And they literally just come up to me and they're like, hey, come with me. And Storm was like, can I take
Torch back.
her torch back to camp? And they were like, nope. And my sister was pregnant. She was due any day. I was terrified.
Hmm.
Like, they don't give you any information. And then they bring you to a certain point and then just don't talk to you at all. So I'm just standing there for what seems like forever, literally panicking. And like, it was realistically 5 minutes, but it felt like 4 years. I see Josh coming up. And so I'm like, okay, there's some craziness about to happen. And they bring us up, and there's like a table set up with cupcakes. I don't even like sweets, but I was like into those cupcakes. And then I see like papers with people's names on them. And I was like, oh God, we're going to have to split the tribe up. And instantly I'm terrified, but I know that this is really important. Like I'm trying, and I'm exhausted and tired, and I'm not sleeping, and I haven't eaten, and you're still trying to think so strategically. So I established pretty quick that the biggest thing that I had to do was shut up. Like, shut up. Don't say anything. Even though we have to swap people, I didn't want to give any information at all. So we kind of talked about how to do it. We were both like, neither one of us want this to take 7 years, so let's just try to be as fair as possible. So I asked him, I said, who is someone that you do not want to get rid of? Like somebody that you want to keep on your side. And we'll go from there. So he picked Sharif. I instantly picked Storm because balance. Storm was very much probably the only person that could compete with Sharif in a lot of different ways. And then the uncomfortable question came of, I asked him, I was expecting him to ask me something, but he was kind of quiet. And so I was like, okay, so who's someone that you'd be willing to get rid of? Someone that doesn't work for your game, someone that's disruptive, like whatever reason, but who's somebody that you would like to come to the other side? And he was like, oh, Bash, because Bash is kind of on the outs. He kind of beats to his own drum, and he said nice things too, but it was very obvious that Bash was definitely on the outside of that group. He might have even said that he might have gone home in the next challenge or something. Like it was just made very obvious that Bash was definitely an outsider. And then he said, Josh, there were 3 guys left. No, that's a lie, actually. I can't remember how Casey came into it. I think he had me pick a girl, or somehow the girl thing came up. And I did pick Lauren, which meant Dina went over there, which is great for Josh because Josh and Dina know each other.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Dina decision, right? Because you essentially get to protect as your alliance, right? And unfortunately, you can only protect 3 other members, and you end up having to let Dina go. Talk about that.
Well, Storm was automatic because he picked Sharif. So I automatically had to pick Storm, I felt. Lauren and I connected 10 minutes into this game, and I felt like Lauren and I were a lot alike in a lot of ways. We had more strategic conversation. I adore Dina, and she's like the life of the party, but we hadn't had as many conversations about people, personalities, life even. And it came down to the point at the summit where I had to pick between keeping only one person, and it was Ryan, James, and Keenan. No, that's a lie. So when he gave me Bash, I gave Josh Keenan. Mostly because I felt like Keenan was very loyal to us. I don't think Keenan would have gone over there and started working with that tribe. Truly. So I felt like Keenan was a great loyal person to be over there, where Bash didn't have that with that tribe. So I felt like we were gaining Bash, kind of giving Keenan, but we would get him back. And then it came down to make the tribes even. I had to choose between Ryan, Casey, and James. Keep on my team. Ryan and I have been an alliance since day one. He's also a beast in challenges and does so much for the tribe. So I picked Ryan. So it did kind of just fall into place. It wasn't anything specifically against Dina. It was just I had already picked Storm. Lauren and I were super close, and Ryan was the one guy that I decided to save out of the rest of the men. So it just put Dina kind of on the outs.
And you probably know with Casey over there, the other 3 are going to be in a tight spot.
Yes, that's correct.
So you're like, okay, I have my core alliance. Josh has tipped off the person who's on the outs, and it's my pick.
And I was so excited. So I think I had to pick the one guy that I wanted to keep, and the other two went to him.
Mm-hmm.
He got to pick the one female that he wanted to keep, and the other two came to us. And he
Mm-hmm.
picked Barbara, which in turn left Carly and Megan to come to us. Well, that's perfect. Those are the two women that I wanted to come, because Carly was in my car, and I also kind of could tell that she wasn't super comfortable. And then Megan was just like a beast, and I really wanted to talk to her too. So, and I got some information from Josh. I don't feel like I gave a lot, and I felt super excited when it was all over. I was very happy.
Yeah. So you end up swapping camps. Well, the tribe swap happens. You're on Kwanu 2.0 now. Talk to me about your relationship with Carly and with Megan and like Sebastian and what that was like, because these end up being two very important relationships that will last the game.
Honestly, I don't want to diminish my relationship with Bash and Megan because it lasted so long into that into the season, but I wanted Carly so bad. I took her aside instantly and I was like, "I'm so excited. I can't wait to talk to you, blah blah blah." She spilled tea pretty quickly. She was like an open book. She was like, I don't really love some of the personalities over there. Bash definitely beats to his own drum, but he kind of fit right in with our group instantly. But she was like, we stayed up talking almost all night by the fire. She slept by me. She's a respiratory therapist. I'm a nurse, so we talked about that a lot. I did ask her a little bit about Megan. She's like, I know Megan feels very strongly about a lot of the women working together because there's only been one female winner and blah, blah, blah. And I think Carly even told me, she was like, I think her favorite Survivor player is Poverty. And I was like, mine too. So I spent a lot of time talking to Carly. And it was very similar to me as Bash was, is that I feel these people that haven't really fit in on their original tribe, if they come over and they feel better connections with us, either as people or as a tribe, that's great. That's like more numbers if like we mix up again or we merge or whatever. And Megan just came in and made fire and told us how badly Keenan had messed up the flint, and we're like, sorry. So she was like a boss as soon as she came over, and I don't know. I think Ryan and Storm kind of clicked really well with Bash. I mean, he works his tail off. And he's super fun to talk to. He has great stories. So that when we all came back to camp, I had a really good vibe from everybody.
So when did you, Storm, and Lauren kind of come together and say, all right, what are we thinking for the vote? If we come to one.
I think it was later like the beginning of day 4. We didn't really talk that at the end of day 3. I spent a lot of time talking to Carly and Megan. Megan more, I think, the beginning of the next day, because I already felt good about Lauren and Storm. And we had already had that conversation. Like, we can't be together all the time, the three of us. Like, we really have to be smart about this. So I think Storm had taken a lot of time and talked to Bash, and Ryan did, and would all kind of like have these side eye and like mini conversations. But I think we were trying so hard to make sure that they felt good about us. So I don't really remember, actually. We might have had a couple of chats before the next immunity challenge, and I know Storm was pretty vocal about getting Megan out pretty early on.
Now, had there been conversations about throwing challenges to protect your alliance on the other side?
There was, but I don't think any of us could have done it. There was, because we knew that we were like, we have the numbers, like that would be great. And I don't think any of us could have. I think that's a very dicey thing to do. I know Storm has since said that he never would do it. He contemplated like he was at least a couple of times last season, but I don't think Ryan could have either, to be honest. So There was chatter about it, but
Thankfully, the choice is made for you because you have your next community challenge and it does not go well. Now, were you one of the puzzle people for your
I
tribe?
don't want to talk about it.
Do you want to take a victory seat?
I don't want to talk about it. I literally, okay. I've rethought this many times. So I think the problem with this challenge was I was made to believe that the running portion of this was going to be extensive. And I am not a runner.
Mhm.
And I'm not a atrocious swimmer. And Lauren is a great runner. So we were like, "You're a runner, go." She was the only one that felt good about running, even
Mhm.
though it was like really not that far. And she's like, "But I'm not good at puzzles." But Bash was like, "I love word puzzles." And Megan felt good about it too. So with the group, we just decided the swimming thing, like the first dock that we had to swim to really wasn't very far at all. The one that I went to was the second one out. I didn't feel like that was too far. The other ones were much further. So it wasn't, we should have talked more about that.
Mhm.
Because word puzzles are my thing. So we do the challenge. Storm is the second to last. I think Storm went after me.
Mhm.
So he's the third dock out. He was dead after that. He was absolutely dead. He came back up on shore. He looked awful. I was like, I'm going to run up and get your water real quick. So I go running up the hill to get his water, and there's a note tied on our water container for our tribe. Well, that looks interesting. So I take that off and put it in my bag and bring his water back down. And then the minute that they all bring up like the pieces of the puzzle with the letters on them, it literally spills out onto the floor. And I'm like, a victory at sea. I didn't say it out loud, but I was like, oh, oh my God. It was just how they fell. It was
Mhm.
almost like the puzzle challenge that we won. It just like spewed onto the mat
Mhm.
and I could just see it. And then I realized nobody else sees this. And Ryan looked at me and I was like, oh God, Ryan sees it too. And we were warned like, they were
Don't
gonna
help.
put their heads in a guillotine if, like, there was any whispering of the answer. I had to bite my hand and turn around because they were like, "If you don't trust yourself not to say anything, turn around." So I was like, I don't wanna be accused of cheating or, like, rob
Mhm.
someone of, like, a true win. So that was the most frustrating part for me of that entire game, and I told my team outwardly, I was like, "Listen, if I was in that challenge, I probably would never have seen that, ever." But I just had, like, this third
The
row
perfect
view.
perspective.
It just it yeah, it didn't happen.
It was as a viewer, I was like, "Oh my gosh." I realized, like, they're, like, 2 letter swaps away from winning, like, they just need to
I
move the
also
at.
think a victory seat should have counted. Great answer. It is. There should have been 2 answers.
Well,
That was a great job.
you don't win the challenge.
Mm-mm.
Let's talk first about when you eventually open up and see the piece of paper you found.
I didn't for it was later. I think it was I don't even know. I don't think I even got a chance to look at it before the vote out. I
Okay.
might I might have been able to peek at it. But I faked pooping or something. That's usually what we do when we go look at things alone. And I saw that it was a mutiny advantage.
Mhm.
I knew for sure that I was not mutinying. I loved my tribe. I also loved my camp, so I wasn't going anywhere. And I
Mhm.
felt very good about my position. I even felt good about Bash, Megan, and Carly. Like I did not feel that I was in danger at all. So I was like, I'm not.
Even with the necklace on.
No, no, I did not. Um, you, I don't know. I feel like you feel when you're in danger and maybe not, but I felt when I was in danger and Can You Survive? It's a weird it's the way that people talk to you. And
Experience help.
the way that people were talking to me, I didn't get that. And people were sharing a lot of information with me that you wouldn't share. So I felt very good. I knew I wasn't going to go anywhere, but I was like, this is great. We can get somebody back. And it said it had to be used before merge. and we don't know when friggin' merge is. So I was like, that's not helpful. But I knew it had to be within like the next couple, and
Mhm.
it had to be done at an immunity challenge after Amos says immunity is back up for grabs or something like that.
Mhm.
So I knew instantly when I opened it, I was going to share it with my people because if it had been an idol, not one person would have heard about it. Um, I would not have told a soul. There's no
Mhm.
way. Um,
You're not Ryan?
no, not even a little. I am not very trusting. So I knew that I was going to tell them because I wanted their input. I also didn't know how I wanted to use it or if I was going
Mhm.
to, in all honesty. So I ended up I think I told Lauren first, and then I kind of like made eyes at Storm and Ryan and told them just so they could kind of help me with it.
So let's get back to the
Ugh,
post-challenge scramble now. Um,
yeah.
what's talk me through the evolution of the strategy here with who you're going to vote out because you have a choice of do you want to take out Bastion, do you want to take out Megan, do you want to take out Carly?
Yeah. And there was a lot of talk. I don't really know exactly where everybody stood in that other than Storm. Storm was very vocal about Megan.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I think she's a huge target. She's going to do really well. She probably has better connections over there than what we're thinking. She was open about the fact that she was close to Sharif.
Mm-hmm.
We felt she was kind of downplaying her relationship with probably Barbara and Josh. Out of Carly, Bash, and Megan, I think there was the most concern that Megan probably was closer to them than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a huge asset for them too. But for me, I wanted Megan to stay for the exact same reason, not that she would work with them, but I had had a lot of really good one-on-one conversations with her really immediately. Like we clicked instantly. There was a talk that we had. I think I was walking back from that challenge. And I said, listen, I feel very strongly. I want a woman here. I'm not writing your name down. I feel very strongly about it. And she was like, me too. And I feel good about you and Lauren. And I was like, I would like to get some of these guys out. Kind of threw Bash's name out there.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, yep, I don't even really get along with Bash. So I was like, perfect. Um, and at that time, I didn't know if it was going to be Carly or Bash, but I did not want Megan to go anywhere. I did not want her to leave. The way that our interactions were, it was very genuine. I felt good
Mm-hmm.
about her, and she's a huge target.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like for Megan to stay. Um, I thought it was going to land on Bash, and Bash and I were also kind of buddies. Like the first sleeping night, it was freezing cold, and Bash was the one that actually convinced me to like come with everybody else and kind of get
Mm-hmm.
warm for the night. And we had talked a little bit that night, and then I had also spent all this time talking to Carly.
Storm
No.
was asking you, was he right about Megan or was he right about Megan?
No, I wanted Megan until the very end. Um, Megan was a really big asset for me in the game. Um, and then I'd spent all this time talking to Carly, and I was like, "Oh my god, if it's Carly, she's gonna hate me. I'm gonna get that duck again. I know it." And it did just come down to the fact. I think Ryan Storm, me and Lauren sat down, and we were like, "If anybody has the idol, it's gonna be Bash or Megan. It's gonna be. So why don't we just vote Carly and be safe because she's probably doesn't have it, and they probably wouldn't play it for her because she
Mm-hmm.
was kind of on the outs,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why that decision was made. And then I got the duck again.
So
God
it
damn
sounds
it.
like you invested a lot of time and effort in the Carly for it to just unfortunately just not work out.
Such a bummer too. I think she had an interview. She told me this. She was like, I interviewed right after and they were like, "Who do you want to win the game?" And she was like, "Well, I still want Angela, but I don't know why she laid it on so thick." God. I wasn't. I really, really, really did want her to stay. But I think that was part of my gameplay very early on. My strategy in my early game before merge was going to be to literally put all of myself into every relationship that I could,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what, whether we clicked or not. I had one-on-one conversations with people and tried to connect with them as genuinely as I possibly could. And then from there, I just felt like more options would open up. And I wasn't going to be super particular about the later relationships that I had. Like me, Ryan, Storm, Lauren, we're not going anywhere. But I tried very hard to remind myself, like, don't stand on a pedestal for Carly or Bash or Megan. Like, make those connections, but don't hold too tight onto them. Hold on to the ones that matter. Even though Carly did break my heart a little bit.
So day 4, like how has it been with the weather at this point for you? Because you mentioned like I can't remember if it was the rain was really bad day 4 or day 5.
4. I'm pretty sure it was 4.
And is this the day that you get the message from your sister?
I don't. Maybe I'm trying to remember who was there.
Yeah, I just remember it's your entire tribe. You're under your tarp. It's pouring rain, and production's giving shout outs, and your sister gives you a shout out.
So, it didn't even really the rain is hard during the day. But it is nothing compared to at nighttime. It is nothing because it can be 60 degrees outside, but sleeping on the ground when it's 60 degrees outside without a sleeping bag or even these stupid little mats that we brought for like luxury items, some people did. It is literally freezing. Like people are waking up because their teeth are chattering so badly. I slept out of 8 days. I slept one night. One night I got a decent night's sleep. And there was that moment of us like huddled in, it's raining. I think our tribe handlers were like, let's lighten the mood for 5 minutes and go over like who's watching the live feed. And there were shout outs from like brothers and families. And I think Storm's girlfriend chimed in. And Mike said, somebody named Lisa says, hi, Auntie Angie. And I was like, well, Lisa's my mom, not my aunt. I was like, and then it clicked, and I just instantly started bawling, like just ugly crying in the middle of a rainstorm with these, and the reaction of everybody else is a testament to why these games are so much fun and so good because I think they were just as happy as I was because everybody knew that I was worried about it. I was trying not to drive people crazy, but it is a big deal. And it was a big deal for me not to be there for my sister when she was having her first baby. And she's 10 years younger than me. And it was hard. It was a really hard decision. In all honesty, I almost didn't do Reelfoot because of it. And so everybody just kind of like swarmed around me. And I just kept crying forever. And I was like, okay, let's not talk about it anymore. That was probably one of the best moments I think I had out there.
So your next immunity challenge is the Pizza challenge. This does involve a lot of running. And this also involves throwing a very light, airy ball into a hoop that ends up being the hardest part of the challenge.
So bad.
And talk me through the challenge. So this one turns out well for your tribe.
So I think this is definitely where Ryan's meter slowly was like creeping up. That challenge was really hard. I didn't have to run as far as like some of the people that were further down the road. If I remember correctly, I think they finished a little bit before us in the run. I can't really remember, but even the basketball toss for me wasn't that bad. But it came down to like this showdown between like Ryan and I think it ended up being Josh at the very end. And you could see Ryan's soul just every time he threw that ball and it didn't go in. It was like you could hear it. It was just so painful every single time. And he would not stop. He would not stop. And he was you could hear it in him. Like he was like grunting and he was trying so hard. And he just like Storm ended up, I think, kind of collapsing after he was done. And when Ryan finally made that last basket, I was like, good God, give this man a drink, and a bed because I felt so bad, but I was so grateful. And also, you should probably leave earlier than later because he was so good. Like, how do you watch something like that and not just absolutely love him? Like, I fell more in love with Ryan in that challenge, I think, than anybody else. Yeah, it was a very, very hard one. And the fish challenge was exhausting. And then this challenge, I think everybody was about done.
So your tribe ends up being safe. This is blocking us from the screen, so I'll say it quickly. But what would happen had you lost the challenge? Like, who would you have voted out off? Would you have been targeting Megan? Would you have been targeting Sebastian? What would have happened?
Ugh. Storm might have gotten his way. I would have pushed for Bash, to be honest. Because like I said, I definitely felt a better, how do I put this? Consistent relationship with Megan. Bash and I also had many side conversations, and Bash and I usually stayed up at night because we were sleeping right beside each other, and we talked a lot. But I think for my game, I had a lot more options with Megan moving forward, and I felt better about her. So I probably definitely would have pushed for Bash. I don't know if anybody else would have gone for that, but that's what I would have wanted.
Who did you think was going to go home on the other side?
Not Dina.
You thought Keenan might have been going home, or James?
I did. I did. I didn't know if it would have been Keenan or James. I wouldn't have been surprised at either one, but I did not see Dina coming. That was a pure shock.
So as we're kind of reaching the end of day 4, there's 12 players left. Are you anticipating a merge at this point?
Yeah.
Are you all kind of talking about it?
Yes, and I am one of those very annoying people that we had been talking about it, and I'm the rude one in the group that's like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, I don't want to talk about it until it happens. I'm tired of talking about it because again, I think I made that mistake very hard in Can You Survive? My tribe, there are 3 tribes, and we were my one tribe was whittled down to 3 of us, I think, by the end of it. And we walked into every single challenge like there was going to be a swap or something. Like we were going to be saved. We were never saved. Like we just kept losing people over and over and over again. And I remember being so mad and upset. And that comes into when you're competing. So I didn't want to wrap my head around the fact that we were going to merge or tribe swap or anything, because when I get emotional about getting let down or expecting something and it doesn't happen, it affects me. So when everybody was talking about it, I was like, la, la, la. I don't want to talk about it. But there was a lot of chatter about it, yes.
Well, you get tree mail for another immunity challenge, so you're like, oh no, and you head to the challenge site. And talk me through the order of events for you there.
Is this?
This ends up being your least favorite challenge, where you have to hold the weights above your head. And so first, I think you hand off. Did you hand off
this was the mutiny thing first?
Yes.
Right? So I will say this is probably. I don't dare say this. This is probably one of my biggest mistakes in the game. I feel. I don't know if it would have changed anything, but this is something that I have thought about consistently since it has happened. So everybody knew about the mutiny advantage. And it was like, and it had to be done before a certain time. It was when Amos says something and blah, blah, blah. The problem was I had told my people, and they were like, use it for Keenan. Use it for Keenan. Give it to Keenan. Keenan walks in, give it to him so he has time to read it and process it before that time comes. So I give it to Keenan as soon as I see them. As soon as I see them, I'm like, here, take this, do it. Look him in his eyes, do what that says. And then it's, hey, everybody, drop your buffs. And I'm like, no, because I don't know what that means. Like, what if it was me?
Yeah, but you have the medallion, so you can't swap again.
Oh my God, I would have died. I would have been so mad. And so it was like I should have held on to it, but with the way that it had to be used and the people that knew, it was just a series of unfortunate events. So that happens. The tribes get swapped up again. I get my friend James back, which I'm super happy about. Keenan ends up mutinying, coming over. Josh leaves us, goes over there.
Well, wait a second. So had you known, like, let's say you
Don't
don't
ask
give
me
it
the
to Keenan immediately, right? And
No.
there's a tribe swap. Do you just hand it straight to Storm? Okay.
I absolutely would have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was really hoping you weren't going to ask that. Yes, I immediately would have given it to Storm. Yeah, I regretted that instantly.
So
Yeah.
so Keenan mutinies, Josh leaves.
Yep.
It's almost like your original tribe is back together again.
It is. Yep. Yep. It was happy for about 10 minutes.
Yeah. So how much do you want to talk about this next challenge?
I don't want to talk about it.
Right. So you have an endurance challenge. It fares poorly, and your tribe loses. Talk to me about how James ended up being the target.
So we all come back, and I think I actually talked to James and Keenan on the way in. Keenan was super appreciative. He's like, "Thank you so much." Why me? And I was like, "Oh, I was just so excited to get you back." You know what I mean? We have no questions about you, no doubts. We know where your loyalties are. James is ecstatic that he's back. I think I was talking to them walking in, and then I can't remember what happened, but Ryan
They have to leave to get their stuff, right? They have to go to other
I
camp
don't
to
know how we
grab
ended
their
up
stuff.
alone. But yeah, we were left alone, and I think it was Ryan was like, "I don't want to get rid of Bash." And I was like, "Oh God, I know what this means." I can see this. And in all honesty, James was one of the very first people that I felt so strongly for in this game, and I did want to go so deep with him. But Bash and I were slowly becoming so close. He was my snuggle buddy at nighttime. He was very reliable in challenges. He was crazy strong. He worked his tail off around camp, and not that James didn't do any of those things, but James had spent a couple of days with the other tribe. I don't think there was like a question of doubting him or thinking that he was working with anybody, but as far as like overall assets, we felt like Bash was gonna like die on a cross for us if we asked him to. Like he was just so bleedingly loyal. And James is smart. James is super wily. I think that really made Ryan nervous. More so than probably me and Lauren, but with the other arguments that were being put out there, it was like if we have another immunity challenge, you know, if there's a lot of running involved or whatever, it's going to be very hard for us to keep up. One with me because I'm no asset there. And it was like Bash is a beast. He really is. So it's going to be hard for us to cut him. And then like the reality sets in, and this was literally, it was like out of a rom-com movie. Like I think Ryan pulls James aside to literally tell him that we're going to vote for him. And then there's like a 20-minute crying session where we're all just bawling and hugging him, and it's just awful. That was awful.
And then you learn tribal councils tomorrow.
And then they tell us tribals the next day. James was pissed. He was like, "I just want to leave." I was like, "I don't blame you. I would leave too." And he's like, and it was raining. Raining that night. It was miserable outside. It was freezing cold. He knows he's leaving. We actually did. I called on the walkie-talkie and requested an emergency tribal council. Like they do it on the show. You want to be like the show? We want to go now. And we were told that Amos was gone for the night and they couldn't do it. So that was a very, very uncomfortable night. And James came to me personally, is like, can we talk about why? Like, why? You were great with me 10 minutes ago, and now it's me. And I just kind of looked at him, and he was like, we can talk about it later. So we talked about it later, not in the game.
Yeah. So did James fight the entire night, or how did that go?
No. He never actually did. He said that this had been one of the best experiences of his life. He was grateful for
Hmm.
every opportunity that he had. He was blessed to meet all of us. Um, he was comforting us. We were a literal disaster, and he was just a champion for us. He was like, "I know this is really hard. Um, I'll be rooting for you guys, blah blah blah." But no, he's like, "I didn't expect to get this far, and I've been through every part of this game so far, and I'm really happy about it. I feel at peace with it. You guys should too." That made it even worse.
So Michael DeLucas's question is, what would you have done in James' shoes?
Oh, me?
Hmm.
I would not have been so classy. I would not have been.
Hmm.
Nope. No, sir. But I also didn't expect anything. I didn't expect anything less. And it's not to say that James handled it correctly or incorrectly,
Hmm.
because how you react to such news is individual for that person.
Hmm.
We'll get there, but Keenan did the complete opposite. And one wasn't right and one wasn't wrong. It was just his own truth. I think he
Hmm.
had also come to peace with the fact that this game was very hard for James, physically, emotionally, and mentally, more so than he thought it would be,
Hmm.
as it was for all of us. And
Hmm.
I think he was just so happy that he had gutted out 5 friggin' days out there.
Hmm.
So he felt good about it. I'm sure he was absolutely crushed and devastated, but
Sharif's question might be easier when I talk to James tomorrow, but did he also get bit that same night?
one, that was the worst night that we had had out there. It was downpouring. It was literally freezing. Everybody was under um the shelter that night. I actually slept out by the fire because I
Hmm.
felt like it would be warmer, and we were able to kind of keep it going. And I was awake all night long. I ended up getting, I think Bash ended up like hauling me into the shelter eventually because I was literally freezing to death. We wake up in the morning. James, oh, James couldn't even open his eye. He got bit by a bug or something. It was like
Oh
literally,
gosh.
it looked like a water blister. I don't know. It was so swollen. And we're like, oh, for frig's sakes, like you needed that. He's like, can I go home already? Oh, I was like, should we call the doctor or something? He was like, and then we hung out and we were like, let's do tribal at dawn. Like, let's go. We were awake all night long anyway. And then to finally get to tribal, I felt like it was taking forever. It wasn't the best night ever.
So I guess one other question is, so why is the reason why James gets voted over Keenan at that first tribal council is because Keenan is seen as more loyal and James is definitely perceived as a bigger threat down the road?
I think James was definitely seen as a bigger strategic threat down the road,
Hmm.
for sure. I don't think it had anything to do with loyalty though.
Okay.
Um, no, not really loyalty, but I
Hmm.
think threat wise, James is a smarty pants, so he kind of terrified some people.
Well, after a rough night, and Keenan volunteers and gets the duck necklace again. It's
Yep,
right back home.
yep.
You go to your next challenge, and this is a blindfold challenge. We have to collect a bunch of puzzle pieces, then put the wooden slats in order. What was your role in this challenge?
I got a ton of puzzle pieces. I had also done a similar challenge before, and I was like, I learned you just go. You just run as fast as you can and just pretend like you're gonna live. Just try not to pay any attention to the other screaming humans around you. Um, because when you're so tentative, you're
Hmm.
so slow. And like I was just like, I'm gonna die on a cross here, I guess. So I was going as fast as I possibly could. Ryan was an excellent caller, or he was for me at least. I think, I don't know, I probably maybe like 4 pieces or so. Like I brought back quite a few. Um, I was shooed away from the lake a couple of times by Nate. He was like, Angela, you were a little close to the
Hmm.
edge. And I was like, okay, I'll go in this direction. Um, so I did feel good about that. I think there was a little bit of a hiccup with the puzzle part at the end.
Yeah.
Um, in hindsight, I was like, oh, we should have had one person put the pieces in because it took so long for Ryan to explain how the pieces go into the puzzle
Mhm.
that I think if one person had done it, it would have been faster. But our numbers were upside down anyway, so it didn't matter. Oh,
Yeah,
thanks, Ryan.
so Ryan agrees you were the best listener.
Cool. Tell my husband that, would you?
And was there any discussion about throwing the challenge as well to help Storm, who's alone on the other side?
There was. Yeah. There was, but Ryan had also given Storm his fake idol.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I just think this wasn't the group of humans to throw a challenge. It was talked about because Storm was a very important part of all of our long games. We had all talked about how we wanted Storm, in the merge and a number for us. So it was very important for us to keep him, but I just don't think any of us could have thrown that challenge, but we lost anyway. So,
so you said if James and Keenan had very opposite reactions being told they're being voted out. First, why vote out Keenan over Sebastian?
I think everybody just felt good about Sebastian. Very selfishly. So when James got voted out, we found out that jury had started. To me, jury changed my game the minute that I knew that the jury had started. That's when I knew that I had to start playing a different kind of game. I wanted to be, whether it worked out or not, my goal was to be more of a dictator on where the votes were going to go. I wanted them to go exactly where I wanted them to go, and I didn't want other people to necessarily see that. So when James got voted out, I was elated because I have a great relationship with James. I know I just voted him out, but I felt good about us. When it came down to Sebastian or Keenan for the next vote, in my brain, it did come into play that I also felt like I had a good connection with Keenan. He would be mad that he was getting voted out, but he was being told he was getting voted out by an entire tribe of people. It was all of us together. It wasn't just me backstabbing him. And I felt where we had a good connection, Keenan being on the jury isn't the worst thing in the world. I didn't know where Bash stood with other people or other relationships, who he might vote for in the end. And he was a little bit more willing to talk long game strategy with me. Bash, I think day 5-ish, started talking end game. I said, I would love to sit with you at the end. I don't know who the third person is, but I would love for it to be me and you. I never had that conversation with Keenan. So that's where I was coming from. And we told Keenan together. It was so bad.
I mean, there's a beauty to the blind side is that you don't then have a very angry person at camp.
Well, so this is the thing. And I said it. I was like, listen, guys, I understand James, right? We literally love James. We love Keenan too. It's not going to go down like it did with James. This is not going to be, I'm grateful for this experience. Thank you so much. Keenan is going to wreak havoc. Like he's going to fight because that's what Keenan was going to do. And we all knew that. And I was like, so where does this pattern end of us literally telling people before we vote them out that they're getting voted out? Like,
I mean, this is because Ryan has the idol. So you're like, this can't backfire theoretically.
The whole game? Like, I don't want to. Like, I would have been down to blindside Keenan, but I got overruled. Well, I wasn't a fan of it, and then he pulls us aside. He pulls us aside one-on-one. And he does start talking to me, and he's very much playing you're like a mom to me, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, will you just think about it? Will you entertain this? And other people end up getting pulled over. And he's like, I've traveled so far. And I was like, is that the reason, though, that we should keep you specifically because you traveled really far? Like, I live in Maine. I traveled far. And he was throwing out every single argument he could. He had his nails out. Like, he was trying everything possible, but I don't think it would have changed. It wouldn't have changed anything.
Well, Keating gets voted out in a 4-1, actually a 5-1 vote. One of the few unanimous tribal councils this season. He's the first person with the medallion to be voted out, one of two.
Yeah.
And he ends up marking Lauren.
Yeah. I was surprised by that. I was.
Three,
I kind of expected it, to be honest.
3 times in a row.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Yeah, I was really surprised by that. But if I'm honest, I didn't really know Keenan's relationship with Lauren.
Hmm.
So I was glad it wasn't me.
Well, at this point, the merge has officially come.
Yeah.
It's down to the final 10. The jury's already started. Talk about Applebee's, because like, what's an official Survivor merge without Applebee's feast?
I think I know for a fact Bash and I had talked about cheeseburgers that day. Like
Hmm.
I was like, that's all I want. Just a cheeseburger. And we go to the merge feast and they're like cheeseburgers are like this big and I just was like shaking. I was so excited. Um and not to mention I Ryan too, I think. Um Me, Ryan, and Lauren had not met people.
Hmm.
So like Storm, Keenan, James, Bash, Megan, like they all kind of swapped around, and there were three of us that never left. So when the merge finally happened, it was meeting Barbara, Josh, and Sharif for the first time.
The Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity. And that was exciting for me. I did really want to meet Barb. I was amazed that she had lasted this long in the game just because I
Hmm.
felt like she would be a target. And I had heard nothing but amazing things about her.
Hmm.
So it was really nice to be able to come together. But of course, you're like, you're scanning everyone, right? Like, is there like a clue in your napkin? Is it under your plate? Like you're literally just looking at everybody. And Josh kept turning around. I was like, what is he doing? What's happening over there? Like you're so suspect of everyone. Um, Intermittently, like just shoving all the food in your mouth. And I have a pretty rugged stomach, so I was like, I'm eating everything. I don't even care. I'm gonna be fine.
Talk
Um,
talk to me about your impressions of Sharif, Josh, and Barbara.
so Barbara came up to me instantly and she was like, I've been wanting to talk to you, Mama. And I was like, me too. Really, really talkative, very friendly, very open about the fact that she loved Josh. Josh reminded her of her son, talked to me about that relationship. Um, Josh and I kind of like winked at each other. Like we went to the summit together, so we'd already kind of talked, but um all three of them really did keep cards close. Like there
Hmm.
wasn't a lot of information sharing or anything more than kind of just like the basic age, where you from, what's new. Sharif had just gotten married, had just gotten back from his honeymoon when he came to us. So he had like a lot of fun stories. But it was all very superficial and it was really happy. And then like some time goes by and it gets a little bit more tense.
You also get reunited with KC.
Yeah. Yeah. Which was so awkward because it was awkward because I didn't have issues with Casey.
Hmm.
None. I would have worked with him. But I had like the rivalry between Ryan and Casey literally killed me. And I did it with Storm a little bit, but Ryan was more excitable about it. My favorite pastime was just like talking about Casey just to like rile him up a little bit. So mad. So, like, I was like, "This is great." Um, I would do it kind of like because they weren't bashful about it. I mean, I think at one point Ryan won a challenge and like gave gunshots towards Casey. Like it was just crazy. So one of my favorite things to do was kind of like rile up this rivalry a little because it was entertaining. And it would work in my favor eventually. But there was like an automatic everybody wanted Casey out. And it was kind of too bad because I like him a lot as a human, but it was definitely way too late in the game to start like a brand new relationship like that. So
Well, Casey's not going anywhere because he wins the first individual immunity. How
yes,
was that challenge for you?
I'm not surprised by that in any way. Um, I don't think that one was awful. Was that this one?
Yeah, it's the disc one where Megan and
all,
Casey heads up at the
all
church end.
anybody said about me was you look like you were like posing. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense for me. um, I think I was like third or fourth out. It was definitely in transition. I have the world's shortest wingspan. I was struggling like, I don't know, 8 in. Like I was like, so I was out, but in all honesty, I wasn't super nervous with the merge people because we got Storm back. I had my original alliance. I felt great about Bash. I felt good about Megan. Um, so I wasn't really worried, and I certainly was not surprised that Casey won.
Mm-hmm. So you have like the entire rest of the evening until like tomorrow-ish to kind of work on the strategy. What were the battle lines like for you?
They were pretty drawn, to be honest. I felt like Josh never spoke to me. Which my number one word of advice for anybody ever wanting to play a game is just literally talk to everybody. Even if it's awkward and uncomfortable, just try, because it made it so easy to write his name down. And I don't think he felt very good, which is hard because you have zero control over that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Josh is like extremely smart and very
Mm-hmm.
strategic, but he did remove himself. He was alone in the shelter for a very long time, where Barbara was talking to us, Sharif was talking to us, KC was trying to talk to us. And it might have been the food. It might have been the merge feast. It hit a couple people kind of hard. But he was very distant and he seemed very sad. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he was trying to just process like a physical issue that was happening or if he saw writing on the wall. I have no idea. But he physically was very removed, which means a lot in the game. Like you just always want to be around other humans.
Mm-hmm. So it feels like the key person to this merge vote is Megan.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was definitely talked about, like, where do we think Megan's allegiance is? And I think Lauren and I at that point had done a really good job with like Storm and Ryan and Bash of saying, we feel good about her. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she has had conversations with us saying that she wants to work with these women. She feels good about you. She did great with us when she came over, when her and Bash and Carly came over. Um, and it was just a little bit more like, now she has Sharif, she has Barb, and she has Josh.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know about Casey.
Yeah.
So I did have a lot of conversations with Megan, just trying as hard as I could to kind of just solidify. And this is like day 6 now, 5.
Night 5, day morning 6. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just felt very good about Megan. At this point, I think we had even said you and I to the end. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we don't know who else is going to be there. She was like, I'll feel good if it's Sharif, because she had a very tight thing with Sharif. I hadn't really decided, but I was like, that's fine. I think I would like Bash, because I think Bash is very misunderstood in the game. I think he's playing, but people don't really know how or
Mm-hmm.
what he's doing at all. So I think he's a great person to go to the end with. So Megan and I had already had those conversations, and I hadn't had those really with many people. So I felt that she would be on our side, but
Looking towards the end game, were you already kind of coming up with like a solid end game strategy, or is it kind of like, maybe with Megan, maybe with Bash? We'll see how things kind of shake out in the next couple of
no,
votes.
I knew. I don't want to say the first night with Bash, but I knew pretty instantly Bash was definitely the type of person that I wanted to bring to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was probably the first day I met him, like the first day that he came over to our tribe, that or the second. We had a lot of one-on-one conversations. I always went to him. I was like, I will tell you if I hear your name, I have your back. I want to
Mm-hmm.
work with you. I told him early on that I wanted to be with him at the end. And again, I felt like he is a super strong competitor, but that wasn't a concern for me. I wasn't worried about strong competition threats at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I felt like he did have a good relationship with the guys, but I felt like he and I spent a lot more time one-on-one talking. So Bash was a shoo-in for me. I knew I wanted him at the end. And Megan's tenacity and straightforwardness with me. I can't remember which day it was. It might have been day 6 or 5. Megan came to me and told me that she found the idol clue.
Mm-hmm.
She came right to me. She's like, "You're the only one I'm telling. I found this. I need help finding it. It's somewhere at Tribal." And she let me read the entire clue. And she was like, "I just need help trying to find it." So now I have Megan telling me I'm the only person in the game she's telling. She's also telling me she wants to go to the end with me. And I believe her
Mm-hmm.
because of her conviction about women getting to the end. We had started endgame talking, I think, earlier than anybody else. So I felt very good about those at that time, but I was also very open-ended. I knew I did not want Ryan there. I knew I didn't want Lauren there. And I don't think I'd really determined anything about the people that I didn't know because I didn't really know them.
So let's talk about this first merge tribal council. It was a little crazy. Tell me what you were saying.
So what's worse than seeing this tribal council happen and all the craziness was knowing that all of that was going to happen because I knew about the idols and the fake idols and the switch offs, and we knew things were going to get passed from this person to this person. This was probably fake. Like we had talked about it. Everybody, me, Lauren, Storm, Ryan, we all knew that was going to happen.
So how much had you determined in advance that yes, let's play the idol for Lauren, and did you know that Storm had an idol?
So I did know Storm had an idol.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying so hard, and I don't know why, and it's hard to explain to people too, but I just knew that the vote was going to be okay. And I don't know if it was my trust in Megan. I don't know what it was, but I knew that they were okay. And so when they were playing the actual idols, it was like Lauren looked at me after. She goes, "If I had looked at you, would you have told me not to use it?" And I was like, "Yes, because I knew you were fine." Like, but that being said, it wasn't my name out there. Like it wasn't me being talked about. And Lauren was automatically revisited with this weird rivalry between her and Casey. Like it started back in the old camp. I did also add fire to that a little bit too at the old camp because Lauren got paranoid about it. Lauren was like, "I don't understand why it's always me and Casey." And I was like, "I don't know either." And then like I'd go up and talk to Casey and then go over to Lauren and be like, "Lauren, I don't know why he doesn't like you so much." And she was like, "What is it?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's so weird. He's like always talking about how it's you versus him. And I don't get why that is." Casey never said that to me. But Lauren was like so nervous about it. And it just, I don't know, that is fun. So when Casey and Lauren get back together, I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's gonna freak out again." But rightfully so, because Lauren was a target going into merge. You know, Casey and her had this thing. So I don't really blame her for playing it, but I wish she hadn't. I wish she hadn't played it.
So you knew that Casey was going to do the immunity handoff?
We did.
And what about the idol Josh hands to Casey?
So we were told by Megan that Casey was going to give his immunity. This is another reason why I trusted Megan, because she told us what was going to happen. And it was also told to us that Josh had something that he was going to play, but it wasn't real.
Okay.
And that was a lot of trust. That's like a lot of faith. And we had talked about, okay, if all of this happens and all this stuff goes flying, are we changing our vote? Are we staying strong? Are we gonna play it by ear? And we were like, nope, we're putting it on Casey. If that idol is fake, if it's real, we're just gonna chance it. We're all putting our votes on Casey. People were freaking out. People were like, "Let me throw a vote here," and it was like, no.
So then, how does it change the Josh?
So I think I don't remember how that actually happened. So it was going to be Casey, and then he won the balance.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, he's probably going to give up his necklace. going to give up his necklace. Is that our chance to take him out? And it was like, it is, but is that worth the risk? Like, and there was question, does Josh have this idol? I don't know. It was like a big mess. But we also felt like, I don't remember who was talking about it, but it was like, do you guys see how sad Josh is today? Like, is he that good of an actor? Is he like playing us right now? But he was so removed and not trying, not talking to anybody. And somebody was like, maybe that's him being confident. Like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like confidence. um, so I think it came down between Casey and Josh, and I don't really know why we landed on Josh, but it wasn't any of the yellows.
So Josh goes home in a 6-4 vote. A lot of things are flushed.
Yeah.
Your next mini challenge ends up being the paddle balancing challenge with the heavy paddle. How is this for you?
Yeah. Not good, I feel. So that I feel like I went out fairly early on this one. So I actually, one of the conversations that I had with my husband before I left, because I didn't really prep for this in any way. I was like, one thing, and my husband's very good about, he's like a personal trainer and owns a gym and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, one question, how do I stop this? Because this is me in every challenge. I'm extremely shaky. It's a huge adrenaline thing. I know that's what it is. I'm not like that normally, but in a competitive situation, I have.
I mean, as a nurse, I hope so.
I've consistently struggled with this, like in my online games, in Can You Survive, like any kind of competition, I get so amped up and my hands just shake. So I'm pretty sure I was like the third person out of the challenge. So not the best.
Well, Storm and Lauren both win, both from your lines. And so talk me through kind of the follow-up from the tribal council and how Casey ends up being the target.
So Casey was always a target. That I don't think that was like a struggle or a leap for any of us. It was like the common denominator. It didn't ruffle any feathers. We actually thought that Casey may be a target for people that he was with on the other tribe as well. We had heard that they weren't as close as maybe they were trying to sell it. So we just thought, like, he's not close to any of us. Barbara, we didn't see as a huge threat. She was super nice. People were actually like really enjoying her company. So Casey was just kind of like, was kind of his time, I think, as far as the game had gone. There had been so much animosity along the way that I don't think that was really even in question. I think it was just like the common thread.
Did you know that there was going to be the fake idol handoff?
I did know that. So I knew that Storm had that idol, and in Storm's defense, we knew Casey had something, and we did not know if it was a real idol or not. We didn't know that. And Storm told me what he was going to do before he did it. And I think it was walking into tribal, or the walk to tribal. He had, or maybe right before, but he had talked to Casey and said, hey, I just found this. Like, you saw me find it. I'll trade you. And the minute that trade happened, we knew that it wasn't real, because nobody would give an idol for a questionable idol. And then, of course, from that came a lot of backlash about, at that point, Storm could have just said, hey, man, it's not real. Don't do anything with it. But I don't think anybody expected Casey to be as upset as he was at like Final Tribal when he told us. But yeah, that little exchange, we did know about it, and it was just for validation that it wasn't a real idol.
Well, Casey ends up going out. Was Sebastian voting for Megan part of the plan?
So, funny story. I know everybody thinks that it wasn't, but I'm pretty sure I told him to do that, but maybe not. Bash also beats to his own drum, and there are times where like you'll say something and you just don't know. You don't know what he's gonna do. And he was also very notorious. There were so many tribals where he would like turn to me. We were usually pretty close. He would turn to me and be like, should I throw my vote on this person? And I'm like, oh my God, no, 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 don't do that. He's like, well, what if this happens? I'm like, no, please don't. You never know what's going to happen. And that was the terrifying thing about Bash, is that he is like a game player and he doesn't care. And he's like, this could be a great idea. And you're like, oh God, could be my demise.
What
Uh,
what what about Sharif using the safety without power? Was that expected?
I didn't know about that.
Hmm.
I think that was like one of the only advantages that I had no idea. I didn't know he had it. I didn't know he was going to use it. There were no murmurs about that to me anyway. So that was a complete shock for me.
Hmm. And got out of the game, so
He didn't need it, but
yeah. So you then have a reward challenge, right? It's a balancing challenge, and you end up being on the winning team. You, Sebastian, Megan, and Ryan, correct?
yeah,
And
yeah,
you
we
get
did.
and tell me about this trip you get to take.
Oh my God, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. They brought us on like a little fun trip, and that was just, it was very weird being around people and walking on roads and driving in a car. It was very, very weird. Um, and so after we do like this little outing that was a lot of fun, they bring us to a restaurant and we're getting food, and we kind of sat down and the four of us were like, listen, let's just take a minute and not talk game.
Hmm.
Like, let's just enjoy this and hang out with each other and whatever. And there were some production people like further down the table, but let's just enjoy each other's company and talk and not worry about the game. Which we didn't do until the boys got up to go outside. And
Hmm.
then Megan and I were like, let's talk game. Perfect. Like the minute they got up.
Hmm.
And she was like, I feel really good about you. I really want to go to the end with you. I don't know how I feel about Lauren going to the end. Perfect. Me either. So we kind of talked about that. I kind of felt her out about maybe getting Lauren out a little bit earlier.
Hmm.
We had a little bit of a strategic talk, and then the boys ended up coming in. I actually think Bash and Megan left to maybe use the bathroom or something. And Ryan and I look at each other and we're like, dive under the table. So we're like looking under the table for like advantages or like something. And the production crew is like, what the hell are they doing? We're looking under chairs. We looked in the bathrooms. We looked under everybody's table. Like, I hope there's not video of that because it's so embarrassing. Anyway, we didn't find anything. So, but it was good. Megan is definitely the person on that I certainly solidified like something good long term.
Hmm.
We also talked about the boys. She was still very unwilling to do Sharif, which I didn't know if that was going to be big or not, because Sharif was still somebody that I didn't have a big connection with because I had just met him, and he didn't have a good connection with Lauren, Ryan, or Storm.
Hmm.
I was like, ugh, if his name comes up, that's gonna be kind of hard. But she was like, I'm willing to like talk about it. He's just the person that I feel good about maybe going a little bit further with. So that reward challenge for me 100% solidified me and Megan working together for a very long time. And I can't remember when she got the idol. I think we might have talked about that too.
Yeah, I don't know when she got the idol. I have it in my day 7 notes.
Yeah.
That she found it at the tribal council around the final 9, final 10.
Yes. Yeah, it was around there.
Yeah. So you get back to camp and you have an immunity challenge. And
No, we don't even get to camp.
Oh, you just go straight to the challenge. Problem
We
solved.
was in from like eating, and they're like, "Here's this challenge," and I was like, "If this is the gross eating challenge, I'm gonna
Which
be
I would
mad.
have laughed, but
I would have cried. There's no way." But it was like this memory challenge or whatever. Bash says he wasn't drunk. Suspect, because he had a very big beer at the outing that we went to. And so it's like a memory challenge. And I have a decent memory. I did well on the early memory challenge.
Mhm.
but this is like chaos memory. There's like
Mhm.
27 things in 8 boxes and they're all numbered and labeled and I was like, I'm out. Like I scored the lowest on this, by the way. I got 2 right.
Yeah.
So that challenge was no good.
So, how much did this challenge with immunity being granted after the victory factor into the vote?
um not much, if I'm
Hmm.
honest. Um so that night Lauren and I had kind of gone off to the side and we had brought up the fact that we definitely needed to vote one of the boys out.
Hmm.
Um, and for me, that conversation, we had talked about it earlier, like Ryan and Storm. Like Storm just did this fake idol thing with KC. That's a huge resume thing. Everybody loves Ryan. Ryan has also made fake idols. He's also found real idols. Like these are threats that we have to start looking at now, especially where we both felt good about Bash and we both felt good about Megan. So Lauren and I, the end of day 6, started talking, and it was Storm. We were like, okay, we're gonna vote Storm out because he just had this big massive move with Casey.
Hmm.
We're gonna vote him out. The morning of day 7 comes along, and it was like I pulled her aside, or she pulled me aside, and it was like maybe we should do Ryan instead. I think Lauren and Storm had a better connection than
Hmm.
Lauren and Ryan did. But for me, Sharif and Storm were very much like this. Like they were hilarious together, but they definitely had a rivalry. Um, I don't think Ryan and Sharif ever really had that. So I was like, if we can keep 2 people in the game that kind of have friction, I love
Hmm.
friction. I love it. So in all honesty, I know it's been talked about because Storm's like, I don't know. I mean, I definitely told Storm in the game. I was like, oh no, I wanted to keep you. She wanted
Hmm.
to get rid of you, but that could be a lie. I'm not really sure how that happened. That was just my story when I talked to him about it.
Hmm.
Um, but we had decided that morning that we were going to go for Ryan, but because of how that challenge was, Ryan's good at everything.
Is Barbara with a safe vote?
Could have won that challenge. Like, who knows? Um, so the safe vote for everybody, the name that everybody was talking about was Barbara. Um, and everybody loved her. Everybody loved her. I knew her for a day and I was like, I'm a fan. And she was very personable. She talked a lot about her family
Hmm.
and stuff. So that just seemed to be the very easy, safe name that everybody was saying. So we decided to wait for the Ryan vote.
So you catch 2 votes this tribal council.
Yeah, I do.
Was that unexpected?
Not really.
So why did they write your name down over anyone else's?
Um, if I'm honest, there was a conversation about who hadn't gotten votes yet.
You're like, wait, no, I like my record.
Like, and it was like crickets. I was like,
Storm hasn't.
shit. Storm hadn't, like, or he had gotten one, maybe I don't know, but
Mhm.
yeah. So that's apparently, I don't know. But still, when you see your name come up at tribal, no good. I didn't
Mhm.
like that at all. I was like, this is uncomfortable.
Getting
All the
flashbacks.
rest of these better be for Barber, or I'm gonna have something to say.
So Barbara goes out, and we get to an endurance challenge when it rains, and you spend a lot of quality time up there with Lauren.
I do. Yeah, that I said this at Final Tribal. That challenge was emotionally so much harder for me than the other challenges that I did complete shit in. Um uh, for a lot of reasons. I mean they're bringing out every drink that they have in the lodge and all these food items and donuts and cooked food and nobody really batted an eyelash. Nobody cared about food. Um But all I heard was a family phone call, and I lost it. Um, and I have a 12-year-old son at home, but I would have called my sister,
Hmm.
like, because I was told nothing either. I didn't know if she was okay. I didn't know if the baby was okay.
Hmm.
Um, so during this challenge, they're trying to get people to drop, especially in the beginning. And the food stuff like really wasn't enticing at all. Your appetite out there, mine at least, was
Goes
nothing.
away.
Like I was just not hungry at all in 8 days. But you hear the family visit or the family phone call, and I just couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop crying. And Ame is like this with the camera right in my face. I was like, this is terrible. And I keep making eye contact with Lauren, and she was like, "You're good." Oh, stop it, Sharif. It was awful.
Sure, you're saying I'll never forget that moment standing next to you in this challenge.
I like to say that I'm not typically a very emotional person. There is something about these games that just kill me emotionally, very much so. And that was one of them. And Lauren just kept looking at me and she's like, "You're good. You're good. You're fine." And Ryan dropped really quick anyway. And then Ryan looks at me. He's like, "I didn't even ask you if it was okay." And I was like, "No, I'm not dropping anyway. They could offer 17 family phone calls home. I'm not taking it, but I'm gonna be real pissed about it the whole time." So mad. And it just seemed so mean out there for some reason. So yeah, it takes forever. And poor Sharif was like, God, he was in such agony the whole time. He almost dropped at least 75 times. Like he was really struggling. And it came down to uh me, Bash, Lauren, and we were holding on for the record. We really wanted to break the record. And maybe miscommunication, but there was a conversation where I was like, I want this badly. Like I was working with Lauren and Bash forever. And I was like, I am not dropping. Like I want this so badly. I'm not going to win anything else. I haven't won anything else. This is so important to me. And there was a personal reason why it was important too that I kind of talked about later, but I was like, I want this win on this day so bad. And Bash was like, after the thing, we'll drop. Like we'll drop. And I don't want to be given anything anyway. So, but when you're like this for like 2 hours or something and everything hurts so bad, I was like, I'll take it. So we do the record, we break the record, and Bash drops pretty much instantly, like real quick after that. He doesn't say anything beforehand. And Lauren looks at me and she's like, "I'm sorry, I'm really competitive. I'm not dropping." I was like, "Nope, that's fine." But at this point, like your arm feels like it's like no longer attached to your body. And they make all these other things like you can't brace your arm. And then they're like, "Hey, now you're going to stand on one foot." And I was like, "Okay." I'm like, "No, that's not going to happen." It was a good showdown. I tried. But when I lost, I like crumbled crumbled on the floor. It is really hard to come so close and like it's called an endurance challenge, but it's very much just a will thing, and it sucked to lose that. That was a kind of a really big low for me, honestly. So I was devastated, but I was happy for Lauren because I needed her.
So you've already talked to Lauren, teed up like, I think we need to take out Ryan.
Uh-huh.
The question is, how was getting Megan and Sharif on board?
Really, really easy. So it was not hard because Lauren had been talking about Sharif prior to. Sharif, very well aware of this. I felt very good about Megan, but I more trusted Megan's relationship with Sharif. And I felt like, I mean, Sharif has his own brain and definitely is making his own decisions, but I felt as a team, it would always benefit them to work together. And everybody knew that Ryan was a very lovable guy. And so it was, me, Megan, and Sharif and Lauren kind of like, hey, let's reconstruct this group that was previously us, Ryan, and Snorm. And we feel good about going forward with you guys because we feel like they've done a lot of things in the game. They're huge threats. Like, and now we would like to re-solidify with you guys. And Sharif was like, "Okay, so after Ryan, then what?" I was like, I don't know. I kind of knew, but I didn't know what to tell him. And he seemed a little bit off after that. And I was like, shit, we should just tell him a name or something because he wanted more insurance that we were willing to work with him longer term than just one Ryan vote.
Yeah.
Which was very smart on his behalf, and we didn't do very well with it at all. But after talking to Megan, and I pulled Sharif aside again later, and I was like, listen, I am 100% serious about working with you. I don't know what Lauren's thinking, but I feel very good about Megan and very good about you.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like tried that connection. In the back of my head, I knew when Lauren and I voted Ryan out, I knew that Lauren had to be next. So, because Bash didn't know about that vote and Storm didn't know about that vote.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two people that have trusted me so far, and I'm not telling either one of them about the Ryan vote. So there's going to be backlash. They're going to be pissed. And in all fairness, I felt at that point it was either going to be Lauren or I. So I knew that shortly after Ryan, the very next vote probably would have to be Lauren or me.
So that's really risk. So there's a lot of risk in this.
There's a lot of risk in it. There is a lot of risk.
Because the other risk is the medallion as well, right? Because like theoretically, you could maybe like swing a 3-3 or something like that, like if Megan stays loyal, right? But then the medallion just, if you get it or if Lauren gets it, you can't break a tie anymore.
Nope. I had, at this point, I think the part of my game that was so hard to maneuver was building a relationship and then slowly severing it as other ones were building. And at this point in the game, this is like the last day or two, I had slowly moved away from knowing that Ryan and Lauren and maybe Storm were going to be in my end game, and I had put everything I had more into Megan, Bash for sure. Sharif, I still like. I didn't think I wanted him at the end, but Megan really seemed to like him, and I put a lot of trust in Megan. I think Megan and I know she felt the same way because of her actions, but we really did just very instantly have like this respect, and we saw eye to eye on a lot of votes. So I put a lot of faith in her and her relationship with Sharif, and mine with Bash, not for the Ryan vote, but after that I did.
So this really ends up being the move of the season.
Yeah.
Right? Like you look at the votes, like this was the blind side that happens. Ryan going home on a 4-2-1-1, right? With Sharif and Storm.
Always 7. Big moves always at 7.
Exactly, right? And even like it was fascinating talking to Storm. Storm's like, like I got a little complacent.
Storm
I was
was
looking
too
further
late.
down the road.
Storm was too late. His big move would have either been at the same time or maybe a little bit earlier. Yeah. It's you cannot wait until 6 people. I mean, that's not many bodies. So, and I did feel at that time, in retrospect and hearing interviews and stuff, I guess it wasn't so, but I felt good about Ryan and Storm. I feel like they might bring Lauren and I until the end, because I mean, especially me, because what had I done in the game, really? So I felt good about them. It wasn't about that. It was about the end. Like I wanted to sit at the end with people that I felt I at least had a chance against, and I did not know about either one of them.
And so Ryan goes out, and Ryan marks Lauren.
I know, right? And why? I don't even know why.
And so it's curious to me that you're kind of teeing up like, all right, the 3 people who I want out, kind of in the order. It sounds like we're taking out Ryan first. Lauren needs to go after, and then
my main alliance, pretty much.
Yeah, and then Sharif is kind of the last real unknown. And so, how quickly how much did the medallion play into Lauren going home, and like how quickly did you really go back to Storm and Sebastian and say, "Hey, I'm sorry, it's all Lauren's fault"?
Oh, I think so. For me too, with the Ryan vote and the Lauren vote specifically, this is going to sound terrible, but I had a chance at their votes depending on if I was at the end and who I was up against. I worked very closely with Ryan and Lauren. I would rather have them on the jury and possibly get their votes than to be sitting beside them at the end, because they know me very well, especially Lauren. Lauren and I were so tight. The medallion came into play a lot, I think, for Lauren's awareness that she was a target. I
Mhm.
think if Lauren didn't have the medallion, she
Mhm.
might have been a little bit more surprised. But she, after Ryan marked her, she literally came back and she's like, "I'm next, aren't I?" And I was like, "No, Lauren, you're not next." But she was 100% paranoid. She was like, "There's not that many people here. It doesn't take that many votes, and I know I'm a target." So it made her aware very much of her like vulnerability in the game, I feel. But all due respect, I knew that I wanted Lauren out next, so it didn't really change my vote
Mhm.
or how I wanted it to go at all.
So
Um,
one of the hiccups to this round is that Megan, has an immunity idol, right?
Mhm.
And it's expiring final six and needs to be played.
Mhm.
Was there much discussion
Oh
over
my
her trying to use it in an
God.
interesting way?
So Lauren threw out Sharif's name, obviously.
Mhm.
And then there was other talk from Bash, and Storm also. So after the Ryan vote, I went immediately to Storm and I was like, it was gonna be you. I didn't want to do you. Um, I we got it changed to Ryan. Storm, I want to work with you, which I did. I didn't see Storm made great game moves. He did. But I felt like at this point in the game, I felt like I had maneuvered so many moves myself that I didn't hate the idea of bringing Storm to the end. I didn't see him as this like landslide victory that everybody else did because they
Mhm.
did. They were like, he's gonna run a whole jury, and I was like, he probably could, but hang on a minute. Um, and he was pretty upset at the Ryan thing, but it didn't last very long because he was like, well, I'm here for a reason, and I tried to tell him that that reason was because of me. I don't think it was actually. I think Lauren was the one that switched that, but and they had a conversation too. Lauren and Storm talked about it and she probably gave her view. So the conversation to get Lauren out, I went to Megan. And Megan also wanted Storm out.
Mhm.
Lauren and Megan both want Storm out. So Megan and I are talking. And I'm like, okay, so you want Storm. I do not want Storm. I do not want Storm to go at all. So I'm like, okay. Megan goes to leave. I said, Megan, come here for a minute. Are we missing an opportunity to take out Lauren? You told me at the reward challenge you didn't want to sit with her in the end. Are we missing this opportunity? She's marked. She
Mhm.
doesn't need that many votes. Should we think about it? And she's like, I really think it's too early for Lauren. Like, and I got her perspective. She was like, it gives her more options. It gives females more options. There could be three of us. That's
Mhm.
great. I was like, okay. I really wanted Lauren out. So she walks off and I speed date with Sharif next. And I go up to Sharif and he goes, Lauren wants me out, doesn't she? And I'm like, yeah, she does. I was like, but I talked to Megan. Megan doesn't want to do Lauren. Um, she wants to keep her around. And I was like, I would do Lauren. So would you do Lauren? And he's like, I'd do Lauren. I was like, could you talk to Megan about it? And he was like, yeah, I'll talk to Megan about it. I was like, perfect. So, and it's hard for me too, because intermittently Lauren's coming out to me being like, I feel like it's me.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I am hearing your name, also saying it, but other people were too. Um, and so then finally loops back around and Megan comes back and she was like, okay, I think I'm down for Lauren. And I was like, great. This is perfect. So, and it's hard. And Lauren's coming up to me and she's like, if it's me, can you just tell me? Just
Mhm.
before I get voted out, it'll mean the world to me. I will respect you if you just tell me ahead of time. So I'm like, sure. And I'm still in my brain. Lauren and I have been together forever. It's really hard. And even though like it is a huge manipulation game, and it's a timing thing, it's very hard. And
Mhm.
we're walking up to tribal, and Megan looks at me and she goes, should I play my idol for Lauren? No, 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 don't do that. No, please don't do that. What? I mean, so that's what my insides are doing. But outwardly, I'm like, I don't know if that's the best thing for you. Like,
Mhm.
something else could be happening. Bash,
Mhm.
Storm, Sharif, you don't know. Like, I think you should just play it for yourself.
Mhm.
Inside, I'm like, my plan is going to be ruined if Lauren stays because I worked so hard. And she's a beast in challenges. Like,
Hmm.
who knows what would have happened after that. But that was literally 5 seconds before tribal. Megan was like, "Should I use it on Lauren?" And I was like, "Oh my god, no. Don't let that happen." And so she told me ahead of time. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to use it for myself." And after Lauren's name down, I did turn to her and I said, "I want you to know I voted for you." So he was aware.
So we're getting to the end game. It's down to the final 5. You have a really cool challenge. You're balancing on the lake. How was that for you?
I hated it. I was like, "Did you manuscript this for Megan? Like, what is this?" Like, Storm couldn't even get on his flotation device, and I'm out there just like all on 4s, like, not good. That was terrible. It was fun to watch. It was very fun to watch, and in all honesty, it did work out really, 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 really well because me, Storm, were out fairly early, and then Sharif fell first, and then I fell out like right after him. But it gave the 3 of us a
Mhm.
chance to like chat and talk. Um, and my love for Sharif definitely happened later in the game, but just like talking to him, I really enjoyed it. And so the 3 of us were up there for a very long time because Megan and Bash were astronomically better at this challenge than we were. So it gave us a lot of time to just be like, "Hey, whoever loses, you want to vote him out?" And we were like, "Perfect." So that's kind of what we had said.
Mhm.
And it gave us time to like chat and talk um, about some stuff. And then I knew that I didn't want. So for me, at this point is where my end game got really confusing
Mhm.
because I was very torn between Storm and Bash and Megan and Bash. And I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I very much wanted Megan to win that challenge because I wasn't ready to make that decision yet. And
Mhm.
I did want Sharif gone the next vote. So
Mhm.
yeah.
So regarding the strategy, it's interesting because Sharif votes for you and Megan votes for Storm. How did that all come about?
So that came about because the boys, Storm and Bash, had a side conversation with Sharif about an all boys thing.
Mhm.
Um, and they were convincing enough that Sharif thought it was going to happen. So that's how my name got put out there. Um, and then Megan was not going to write Sharif's name down.
Mhm.
So there was a vote for Storm in there also.
So that leads us to the final mini challenge, which
Yeah.
this is probably your favorite challenge.
My shining moment.
Where you get to do one of the more fiendish puzzles out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was rough. When I saw the first part of it, so there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 stations as like an obstacle course. And it was like these are all hand-eye coordination things. I was a cheerleader. Like I'm never gonna get these. And they weren't as bad as I thought they were gonna be. So when I got to the puzzle, I was actually excited. I do know this puzzle. I know there's a strategy to it.
Mhm.
So I had some kind of idea of what to look for. And it feels like forever, but for a very long time, I had every single side correct and one side showed a duplicate color. And I was literally like, "You have got to win one challenge. My husband would kill me if I just won nothing." Like, I knew it. And I was so frustrated because I was so close. I did not look, I did not pay attention. I had no awareness of what other people were doing. I just kept trying things over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, that's the one challenge that we forgot to bring the immunity necklace to.
So you don't get it,
Like,
yeah.
I didn't even get to get crowned. Um, but it was nice for me too, and I think, like, right after it was over, I was like, "Oh, my curse is broken." So, in Can You Survive and the 2 online games that I've played, I get booted 4th every game.
Wow.
Every game. I've never made the end, I've never been able to be at Final Tribal, and so when I won, I was happy that I won, but it was more like, thank God I actually get to talk and say something because I've come so close in every game that I've played, I've never made it that far.
So this isn't ends up being this is it seems straightforward if you look at the votes, but this is going to be a hard decision for you personally, right? Megan's the person you invested so much in, and and the question is, do I want Storm or Megan with me at the end?
Yeah, that was hard. I went into that challenge being like, me, Storm, Bash, done. I feel good about it. It is what it is. If I lose against Storm, it's fine, but I feel like it's closer. And I hate saying this because this is not the nicest thing to say, but a big theme throughout most of the season for me was working with women and trying to get women towards the end for hopefully a female winner. With that being said, I wanted to be the female winner.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to sit at the end with 3 females. I wanted to be the only option. Because it was so important for people. Now, that being said, I didn't think I would automatically get the other females' votes. I didn't know if I would get Megan, Barbara. I thought I'd get Lauren's vote if I sat at the end, but
Mm-hmm.
it increased my odds.
Mm-hmm.
If I had Megan sitting beside me, I just felt like there's a chance Barbara might vote for her. She had better connections with people on the other tribe that I did not have because I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's Barbara, Sharif, Josh, like those votes. You're suddenly
yeah,
like, oh
like
no,
I didn't know it all. And Megan is a beast. Like, she won challenges. She was super strong. And not that Storm wasn't. I just felt like Storm and I were a little bit more equal. We had similar connections to people, but not the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I did connect one-on-one with some people that he did not, where Megan, I wasn't really sure.
So Megan gets voted out in a unanimous vote, 3-1.
Yeah.
And so as you're preparing to enter Final Travel Council, what were the big points you wanted to make sure you hit?
So I actually didn't hit a lot of points that I wanted to because your brain is so scrambled.
Yes, it's
And you're
day
like, it's 8 days of no food and no sleeping. And you don't want to sound like an idiot either. So there were so many things that I wanted to say. Like the fact that there was a target on me because Dina literally went over there and said Lauren and Angela are running that tribe and told everybody that. And then they come back and they're like, let's work together. I'm like, perfect. There were so many things that I wanted to say that I didn't get to, but
Mm-hmm.
my opening speech was pretty much surrounded by the fact of, please listen to us. Please listen to our answers. Give us all a chance, because I might have played very different from you, but at least listen to where I was coming from. Give
Mm-hmm.
everybody a fair chance. I was very nervous about players, voting not necessarily on gameplay or connections, but maybe some other like superficial reason, which I should have known better because this cast was awesome. And then it was also highlighting a lot of the moves, like the Ryan move, obviously, the Lauren move. But one of the better things that I had done is I was never worried I was going anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
ever. And that is because I built connections along the way and I was very well insulated in this game. And that's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to sever parts of that insulation along the way, not too early and not too late. But that's why I was safe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think I was necessarily a sleeper in the game. My name never came up and I never voted wrong
Mm-hmm.
that entire game. So, and I felt really, really good about that. So that was kind of like the highlights of what I said at Final Tribal.
So Justin has a question for you. What was one jury question you wish you answered differently?
That's a really good question. To be honest with you, in a very nice way, I wish I had answered Keenan's question a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up boding well for me because he did vote for me. But one thing that was really interesting to me, and I was like, just don't be defensive. Just take in all the feelings that they're having. Keenan came at me with a bit. I was also told later on that he was going to give it to me a little bit harder than what he did at Final Tribal.
Mm-hmm.
But I do wish that I had said something to the point of Keenan addressed me very openly. It was like, you were like a mom to me and all this stuff. In Keenan's interview, even with you, I was not Keenan's number one. I was not at all, ever. And he felt the most betrayed by me out of everybody else. And I felt like that's not fair. The only reason he felt the most betrayed by me is because I was a mom, or that's how I took that. And to me, I like Storm wasn't there. So, I mean, he escapes the wrath. So, if I'd been sitting next to Lauren or something, I wonder if that might have been different.
Mhm.
But he seemed to really dwell on this whole mom kind of relationship or whatever. And I didn't hide the fact that I was a mother, but I also didn't treat them like they were my children.
Mhm.
All the players out there were very strong, very independent humans.
Mhm.
And I just felt like I got a rash purely because I was a mother and not necessarily because he got voted out. So
Mhm.
that's something, but I'm glad that I didn't think of it that way. I answered very genuinely and very honestly with Keenan,
Mhm.
and I did feel bad because I have a lot of love for him.
So going to final trouble versus coming out of final trouble, like where do you think the votes were going? Like, what do you think the split was going to be between you, with Storm, and Sebastian?
Um, Storm, I think was a hell of a lot more confident than I was going into it.
Mhm.
He told me ahead of time, he was like, I think it's going to be close, but I think I definitely have Ryan, Sharif, Keenan, Josh, Casey. And I was like, that's most of them. um, so I had no confidence.
Mhm.
I definitely did not think I was going to win at all.
I forgot to mention there was that final reward challenge, right, where you had to solve the snake puzzle,
Yeah.
and so you know Sebastian's giving an extra vote to KC,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so did that change how you answer Casey or anything? Well, Casey actually had a very
No.
favorable
Wow.
theory question for you.
I literally, like, when Casey started speaking, one to Storm, I was like, wow. And then he started talking about me, and I was like, wow. Like, that was the most unexpected thing that
Mhm.
could have happened. I didn't see that coming at all because I didn't know Casey knew any part of my game, let alone
Mhm.
how well he was talking about it.
Mhm.
And and I don't know if it was more singing my praises because he was so mad at Storm, but listening to KC, I could feel a shift.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it was in my own head because that was so unexpected.
Mhm.
But Storm leaned over and he goes, "So Bash gave that to Casey." And I was like, "Perfect." Because it sounds good.
Now, Parker has a question. Which juror would you have given the extra vote to?
Lauren, hands down. So it's funny.
Over
So
Megan?
when Bash got it,
Hmm.
like Storm made a comment. He was like, "I think you should give it to Ryan." And no. So Storm got up to walk away, and I looked at Bash. I was like, "If you give that to Ryan, I'm gonna kill you." He's like, "Who do you want me to give it to?" And I was like, "Lauren." He was like, "Okay." So I think that I I would have given it to Lauren, but honestly, I would have given it to either Lauren or Megan.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, looking back at your game as a whole, like, are there any things you would go into differently? You've kind of identified moments here and there, but like, looking back, are there things you'd want to change or have done differently? I mean, you won, so it's like you played the correct game, but
Yeah. And this is like it's a very, very complex question.
yeah.
I have rethought every single decision. Could I have kept James? Should I have kept him longer? Um, he's like a lifelong friend to me now,
Hmm.
and that is very hurtful. Should I have handled the Megs thing differently? I've rethought this 100 times. But in reality, I am very cheesily proud of how I played, and I
Hmm.
feel like if I had made anything different, I might not have had the same result, and I'm very happy that the entire time I was out there, I never felt like I was in danger. I feel like people had my back, even if, like, a name was mentioned, like, when Sharif kinda brought it up, Storm and Bash were like, "No." Um, and I don't think I would've changed anything.
So, I'd like to kind of throw some rapid fire questions at you as we wrap up here. So I think you alluded to this earlier, but what was the low point in the game for you, or the lowest point in the game for you?
Voting James out.
What was the high point for you?
Winning.
Is there a second place high point you can think of?
I mean, emotionally, it was finding out that my sister had her baby when I was out there. That was, and it was a high moment for a lot of reasons too. There was a lot of like support emotionally from other people, which was very touching for me too. So that too.
What was your favorite challenge?
Stupid arm bucket one. Yeah, I'm so mad about that challenge, but I could not have fought any harder to win that. So I have to say that one.
Is there a favorite moment from camp life you'll always remember?
Honestly, my favorite camp stories were the ones where they were not being filmed.
Yeah.
There were a lot of very, very personal conversations where we shared why we are the way that we are, stories about maybe upbringings and other things. And those were my favorite because there was zero gameplay and it was just basic human interaction. And those are probably my favorite.
Who surprised you the most out there?
Barbara.
How come?
Because I think we started talking about her like day one. Like, is Barbara gone? Is Barbara gone? And not only did she last that long, but like she legit had people in her corner. She's a hard lady not to love. She's hilarious. She's super fun to talk to. So yeah, by far her.
Who do you wish you had a chance to work with but didn't?
I'm gonna say probably Sharif. We worked together, but it was literally on like 2 votes. And actually somebody mentioned to me at the after party, they were like, if you two had hooked up earlier, I can see you working really well together. I think Sharif and I have very similar personalities. And he's super smart and I would love to work with him sometime.
Do you have a takeaway from Reelfoot? Do you have has this experience taught you something, or you're just like, man, I won, I did it?
I don't have that yet. It'll happen probably eventually. I'm super proud. It was a very hard game. And I was talking to some people that played, and I was like, you look at like the final 8 people, all monsters, like the Laurens and the Storms and the like. Those are some mega personalities with a lot of strengths. So I'm super happy that it ended the way that it did. But I think my biggest takeaway, and I think the key to my success in this game, was to continuously be adaptive. Like, just evolve your game smartly every step of the way. I think sometimes people evolve their game when they don't have to. And I feel like sometimes people hold on to things too long. And I felt like for me, the key was being okay moving on, even if it was hard and crappy, and timing. And for some reason, those 2 things fell into my lap this game. I worked very hard. This game, but there were other components to it, like the summit, and like luck does come into it. And I just tried to go with those times the best that I could.
How's your family's reaction to this been?
My first phone call was to my sister, and not crying. I was just howling, and she just had a baby, and she's like, I am so proud of you. You just birthed a human. Like, and I got a text message from my son the minute that the votes were read, and it said, Mom, I'm so proud of you. So it's been nice. Yeah, it's been nice.
Has your experience playing Can You Survive and playing Reelfoot, is this going to change how you watch the real show?
It already has. I've become a lot more vocal now, where before I'm just kind of like taking it in. I'm a pretty good bystander. And now I'm like, that is the stupidest thing why are you doing that? Like, how do you not know that that's what that person wants to do? I am by no means an expert. I've played 2 games. But I will say that one of the reasons I never slept wasn't just because of the conditions and like the shitty weather. I literally stay awake at night thinking, okay, this is my relationship with Lauren. What is her relationship with this person, this person, this person, this person?
Mhm,
What's her best move for this next vote? And then
mhm,
you go down the line and you do that all night long until dawn. So so I think, like, those kind of things come into play. I also relate more like, "Oh, you made that stupid choice because you probably hadn't eaten in 20 days."
Well,
Ugh.
Angela, is there anything else about you about your victory that we want to talk about here as we close out?
No, I just want people to know that, like, these games for me truly, and I've said this 1,000 times and it's so corny, but, like, both of the games that I've played so far have been life-changing in some way. Can You Survive literally saved me from a place that I was just, like, really struggling with some personal stuff, and so, like, that game was epic for me. This one was more about a lot of personal growth for myself,
Mhm,
but also the relationships. Like, the relationships that you make with these people is mind-blowing, and we're all so different, and so, like, I just hope that anybody that is remotely interested in this gives it a shot because
mhm.
there's no way you're gonna be disappointed.
Well, Angela, just again, thank you so much for the last 2.5 plus hours of your time. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching. This is not the last
No!
interview by any means. There are many more in the future. Tomorrow at 6:30, I'll be sitting down with the first juror, James, to talk about his game. Friday early morning, I'm talking with Drew. This Sunday, Bash, and many more after. So get excited for that. But again, thank you all for tuning in and listening. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Angela, once again. And who knows? Maybe someday we'll see you again for a Winners at War.
Oh my god. Justin!
All
That's
right.
perfect.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and have a good night.
Aw.